Honkai Impact 3. A game that is over 7 years old now, which is considered ancient in the mobile gaming industry. Throughout those 7 years, the developers have sought to add and remove tons of features, making the game a clutterfunk of different modes, tasks to complete, and objectives to accomplish. Even though the developers are wrapping up part 1 of the game and starting part 2 to hook new players in, it can be understandable for new players to be completely lost on where to even start in this game. Even players who've taken a break from the game for a few months will be surprised to realize just how much has changed in that short time frame. For better, or for worse. So rather than commit account-breaking mistakes, like spending crystals on an outfit for a character you don't even own, let's walk through how to approach the game properly, so that you can play competitively, even if you plan to be a free-to-play player.
いろいろあったね。私たちは様々な場所に行って、たくさんの思い出を残した。ほら、私たちの足跡、どんな時もここにある。だから昔と同じように一歩ずつ前に進もう。
サイドオン、サイドオン。
お願い、もう一人の私。
この世界なんかよりもキアナちゃんの方がずっと大事よ。
一人ぼっちにさせないから。
私たちが作れなかった未来を作りなさい。忘れられるわけないじゃない。
ゼレ、これが私とみんなの帰り道だから。でも何より大事なのは、その後彼女は世界で最も美しいものに出会うということ。そう、
キアナ、
愛という宝物に。これは愛の物語。きっと愛に満ちた結末がある。艦長。
As of the time of the recording of this video, Chinese servers are on the version 7.1 patch update, introducing Griseo Skywalker,
This is where the fun begins.
a new support battlesuit for Griseo dealing physical bleed damage, with everyone else getting the version 7.0 patch update, featuring Lunar Vow, a DPS-type battlesuit for Luna Kindred, dealing lightning and bleed damage. Listed in the description are several other resources that will help new players like you be on a more even footing with veteran players. Chief among these is the new Captain's Handbook, a painstakingly laborious effort by fellow captains White and Garuda on everything new captains need to know before hitting level 81. There's also the official Honkai Discord server, where you can get quality help and awful memes for free. Keep the glossary of terms in handy, as it contains a list of common abbreviations and frequently used lingo that veteran players use. Now, if you're getting into Honkai, you're most likely one of the following. You've never played Honkai before, and you are completely new to the game. Or, you have played Honkai before, but due to some reason you got burned out, you needed to touch grass, real-life obligations, etc., you had to stop playing the game. If you haven't played the game since the version 5.8 update launched on June 30th, 2022, or the end of May if you're playing on Chinese servers, then you will either have the old starter event that started after January 21, 2021, or an even older version of the starter event if you quit Honkai before that date. If you haven't played since version 5.8, it will be much more easier to start over again with a fresh new account. The exception is if your account is pretty stacked, but even then I would caution against keeping an old account. The meta in this game changes very fast compared to other games such as Genshin Impact. Just kidding, Genshin doesn't have a meta. And older characters, or Valkyries, simply cannot compare to newer ones. It may be hard to let go of your old account. They're all digital waifus, just let it go. But it is the better option in the long run. Not only does the new starter event help new players understand the basic mechanics of this game, it also gives them thousands of crystals. That should be enough to give you a head start on building a solid foundation for your new account. Alternatively, you could be rerolling. According to Fandom Spot, rerolling comes in two varieties. The first type is where the game has an active reroll feature that allows you to pull unlimited times on a banner, which for non-gacha players is a collection or pool of items or characters. A player has a set percentage of getting an item or character from the pool every time they pull on the banner, which is done by spending in-game currency. This is done in Dragalia Lost, where you have unlimited retries until you are satisfied with the pulls you get. The second type refers to creating new accounts in order to get a specific character or item from a banner, and keeping the account that gives you what you want. This type of rerolling is what is used in Honkai Impact 3. Yes, it's tedious, but if you manage to get what you want, it gives your account a nice solid boost. And if you don't have bad luck, you should be able to get what you need in under 3 hours. A link is in the description on a sample reroll made for the Southeast Asia server, taking less than 20 minutes. Since each pull is 280 crystals, you'd want to save up to 2,800 crystals and do one multi-pull for each reroll. Keep in mind that this option should usually only be done for a Valkyrie and not for her gear, and only if that Valkyrie is busted. As of now, this only applies to HoTr of Truth, HoTr of Rebirth, Lunar Vow, and HoTr of Sentience, though I would caution against rerolling for the first two Valkyries due to their advancing age. Create a HoYoverse account, which can be used as a common login for MiHoYo's other games like Genshin Impact. Having a HoYoverse account also allows you to check into their web interface daily and receive rewards for doing so. Once you start the game, you will see the opening cutscene. Say hi to the main character of the game, Kiana Kaslana. Big note here, if you already have an account and are not expecting to see the opening cutscene, make sure you have the correct account credentials and are logging into the same server region as last time. An account playing in the EU region is different from an account playing on Japanese servers. That aside, Ai-chan, the girl with the green hair, will give you a rundown on how to do basic combat. After attacking an Archangel, you'll be instructed on how to do an ultimate evasion and a time fracture. Note that ultimate evasion is just evading right before an enemy attacks. You'll also notice that the enemy movement is slowed down. This is called time fracture, where enemies, clock timers, and skill duration timers are slowed down, and the screen is painted a deeper shade of blue. Conditions for triggering time fracture differs from Valkyrie to Valkyrie, and some Valkyries can trigger it on demand. The next bits of basic combat involve ultimate and SP packs. Ai-chan calls the ultimate burst mode here. A Valkyrie's burst mode will usually have different gameplay from her normal mode. SP packs are the yellow balls. Grabbing the SP packs gives you SP, which are needed for performing ultimates and weapon skills. Note that SP here is different from SP type Valkyries, which will be mentioned later. You'll then face a bunch of enemies and head to the next area, where Ai-chan introduces shields, a yellow bar below the enemy's HP bar. Do physical damage against a physical shield, and elemental damage against an elemental shield, to make the shield HP go down. Some shields are unique in that they instead require a certain amount of hits to be broken. After meeting with Mei, you'll exit to the home screen and be redirected to the Valkyries tab. You'll find a quick overview on each Valkyrie. On the left side, you'll find the character's name, their type, either biologic, psychic, mecha, quantum, imaginary, or stardust, and their battlesuit name. It's important to note that a character can have several battlesuits, unless their name ends in Olenieva or is dead. For example, Raiden Mei has a battlesuit named Crimson Impulse, which deals physical damage and has a base rank of B. She has a far better battlesuit called HoTr of Thunder that deals lightning damage and has a base rank of S. Since different battlesuits have different roles and gameplay usage, it's far easier to refer to the battlesuit name than their character name, unless they have only one battlesuit. Below that, you'll find the Valkyrie's current rank, their current level, other skill types they can apply, and the type of damage they deal. which is either physical, fire, lightning, or ice, or cryo for you Genshin folks. Something that confuses beginner players, especially those coming from Genshin Impact and Honkai Star Rail, is that only physical damage can crit. Elemental damage cannot. On the right hand side, you can find the Valkyrie's current gear and skill points. After leveling up Crimson Impulse, you'll then head over to the Skills tab, where you can unlock and upgrade a Valkyrie's skills. Another big note, be careful which skills you unlock. Make sure to read the skill description before unlocking, as there are some rare exceptions where the Valkyrie performs better without that skill. This is mainly the case for very old Valkyries that are usually older than 3 years. Either way, reading the skills will also allow you to familiarize yourself with what the Valkyrie does and later on help you master the creation of rotations, which is for tryhards only. If in doubt, ask. Right before you continue the story, you'll be given a Cult Peacemaker to replace your USP-45 for White Comet. Weapons and stigmatas can make or break a Valkyrie, and knowing what gear to equip your Valkyries with is vital to succeeding in the game. Unfortunately, the in-game guide on Best in Slot, or BIS, gear for Valkyries is riddled with errors, and so it is a far better idea to rely on the official Discord server for Honkai instead. Jumping into stage 1-4, you will be given an opportunity to flex the Peacemaker's weapon skill. It stuns enemies, and that's about it. What, did you think the developers were going to give you an awesome weapon right out the gate? Stun is one type of debuff trauma that you can inflict on enemies. The other debuff traumas are Paralyze, Bleed, Ignite, and Freeze. Freeze, or Rhyme trauma, as well as Paralyze and Stun trauma, are classified as Control trauma. Control trauma lasts 5 seconds long, deals no damage to the enemy, and cannot be prolonged while in effect. Ignite and Bleed trauma are classified as Damaging trauma. Damaging trauma continuously deals damage to the enemy, lasts for 10 seconds, and its duration can be prolonged. Although, I guess hypothermia isn't a thing in Honkai or something. Anyways, you'll continue on to the next stage, where you'll learn about QuickTime events, or QTEs. These are essentially when you switch from one character to another character, by clicking on the character's flashing icon, whereupon the incoming character casts some skill with a unique effect. Some QTEs are good, some are bad, some have slow animation and are turned off in time-sensitive game modes like Memorial Arena. Again, refer to the official Discord server and ask if and when a particular battlesuit's QTE should be turned off. You'll teach the Honkai beast, Konungur, the power of friendship and finish stage 1-5. Ai-chan will instruct you to collect the challenge rewards for completing the second act of the chapter. Since the story mode gives you crystals for completing acts and fulfilling the side missions, it's important to use your stamina to complete the story if you are ever low on crystals and need to quickly get some more. Now it's time to head back to the home screen and head to the main source of anguish and despair, the supply tab. Ai-chan will give you enough crystals to pull on the only banner that's unlocked for you currently, the Dorm banner. This pull is guaranteed to be Bronya Zajcek's battlesuit, Valkyrie Chariot. Ai-chan will once again give you a weapon to equip on Bronya. You'll notice that each Valkyrie also has a specific weapon type that they can equip, and only that weapon type. These types are two-handers, or longswords, heavy cannons, guns, blades, such as katanas, gauntlets, or fists, scythes, lances, javelins, bows, and chakrams. Valkyrie Chariot can only equip heavy cannons, and cannot equip other weapons such as gauntlets or chakrams. You'll add Bronya to the team, allowing us to complete the iconic trio of the game. There's a little demonstration on how cannon users work, as well as a showcase of Valkyrie Chariot's ultimate. Continue heading deeper into the ship, where you'll control a mecha and eventually head to the main hub of the Selene battleship. But before we finish Chapter 1, Ai-chan will introduce you to one of the biggest sources of crystal income, the Starter's Manual. The manual is accessed from the main menu by tapping the little book icon at the bottom of the screen. This is very, 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 very important for new players to complete in its entirety. Was that enough varies to get my point across? Let me put it this way, if you don't finish the starter's manual, just reroll. The manual offers you thousands of crystals, so not finishing it is the equivalent of shooting yourself in both feet and then trying to run a marathon. Doable, but why on earth would you do that? The starter manual consists of 6 different parts, accessed by the different tabs on the left side of the screen. It lasts for 90 days, starting from when you first log in. This timer goes down regardless of how many days you log in, so make sure you get the starter manual done. Don't feel rushed into clearing the starter manual by upgrading suboptimal Valkyries or gear, as resources are scarce and important to manage. 90 days is enough for even casual players, so don't feel pressured into completing the starter manual as quickly as possible. The first part of the starter manual is the growth regimen, which consists of 9 different phases, each of which offers you some combination of crystals, farmable material, and Valkyries. In total, the growth regimen gives you 7,480 crystals, 10 dorm supply cards, 1 expansion supply card, the Valkyries, Swallowtail Phantasm, Yamabuki Armor, and Darkbolt Jonin, the weapon Maxstorm, augment cores to unlock Yamabuki Armor's augment battlesuit Drive Kometa, and a golden egg that allows you to pick 1 S-ranked Valkyrie. The second part of the starter manual is the Level Rush. Level Rush provides you with rewards after every 5 captain levels. You can also buy an extra bundle that gives you 5,400 crystals and a free S-rank Valkyrie, the Hersher of Thunder. Unlike most bundles in this game, the Level Rush bundle is actually worth the money. So if you know that you are going to spend money on this game, this would be a good bundle to grab. But seriously, don't spend money on this game. Once you do, it's difficult to escape gacha addiction. I should know. I'm suffering from it. Hersher of Thunder is an excellent Valkyrie for beginners, and when paired with her best-in-slot weapon, 7 Thunders of Retribution, and the Handle Stigmata set, it is a really good choice, even for endgame players. The third part of the starter manual is a supply giveaway. By pulling on a banner 50 times, you are given a free weapon selection box as a reward. The only good choice here is Iris of the Dreams, as Key of the Void is for a dead Valkyrie that was a good investment 5 years ago, and Key of Castigation has been replaced by the aforementioned 7 Thunders of Retribution for Hersher of Thunder. That leaves Iris of the Dreams. Fallen Rosemary is an old Quantum and Lightning support Valkyrie, but can still be decent as a support at the S2 rank. The fourth part of the starter manual is the first top-up bonuses. If you do choose to top up, aka spending money to get in-game resources, the best bundles to top up are the monthly bundle, the Level Rush bundle, and the one-time double crystal bonus you get when purchasing crystal bundles. After topping up, the best Valkyrie to choose is Reverus Calico. Despite the fact that she is labeled as an ice support, she is a very powerful general-purpose support. Both Fischl and Sweet and Spicy have long been overshadowed by more powerful counterparts. They do still see some usage, but their coverage has become much more limited thanks to Hersher of Truth and Terminal Aid. Reverus Calico can also work with Shigure Kira to form a good beginner ice team, making her the preferred choice. The fifth part of the starter manual is the 7-day plan. All you have to do here is just log in every day for 7 days to receive rewards. Easy peasy. It's important to note that Hersher of the Void is a practically useless character, so don't invest heavily into her. The sixth and final part of the starter manual is a training plan. This consists of daily missions, weekly missions, and milestones, such as completing the Elysian Realm story mode and story stages. Completing these missions offer you EXP for leveling up and starter coupons. It's important that you complete these missions every day, as the EXP will help you level up faster, and the starter coupons can be used in the training and material shops. The training shop offers you a free S-rank Valkyrie, Fallen Rosemary, the Darwin Stigmata set for Lightning Valkyries, crystals, the Robert Perry Stigmata set for Ice Valkyries, the Marco Polo Stigmata set for Physical Valkyries, and the Fuhua Musician set for Fire Support Valkyries. From the training shop, it is important to redeem your starter coupons to get Fallen Rosemary, crystals, the entire Robert Perry set, the top and middle pieces of the Marco Polo set, and the middle and bottom pieces of the Fuhua Musician set. Robert Perry is an excellent Stigmata set to put on Reverus Calico as an elemental DPS. Fuhua Musician MB, or middle and bottom, can be paired with Teresa Gluttony T, or top as a basic support build. Marco Polo TM, or top and middle, can also be paired with Attila B, or bottom, as a basic physical DPS build. Both Teresa Gluttony T and Attila B can be crafted in the Foundry, though more on that later. Do not get Darwin, as the Edison Stigmata set is better by being more easy to use. As for the material shop, get what you need when you need it. The big exception here is spending Asterite to buy fragments or parts of either Jingwei's wings or Blood Embrace, as Asterite is a valuable resource and you can just get their parts through coins instead. The main priority is getting 320 spatial lens, then going for Ether Fuel and Honkai shards. Ether Fuel is used to craft special weapons and stigmata from the Foundry. Spatial lens are used to craft Grade 2 or G2 stigmata. Phase shifters and fluid alloy blocks are used to upgrade weapons and stigmata. Honkai shards are used to upgrade weapons before they reach level 50. Advanced materials are used to upgrade certain skills and E.L.F.s, adorable little sidekicks that assist you in battle. EXP chips are used to level up Valkyries. And Twin Soul Crystals are used to level up weapons. You'll need 320 spatial lens, solely to craft Jingsheng Tan, top and middle, from the Foundry. Coins are recommended to get if you need them, since you'll need all the coins you can get like you're playing New Super Mario Bros. To complete the first phase of the growth regimen, all you have to do is complete the 6 missions listed. 3 should already be done by now. Get 3 Valkyries, pull a Dorm Supply banner, and reach Captain level 10. The next task is to pull a starter Valkyrie supply with the free expansion supply card you were given. Use it. Keep in mind you should only be pulling once. It is really important for me to stress here not to pull any more times on the starter supply, and only to use the free pull they give you. It is a scam. Yes, the girls on the banner look pretty, but MiHoYo knew what they were doing to sucker in gullible new players. For legal purposes, this is pure speculation. But you're not gullible. The blonde-haired girl, Palatinus Equinox, or PE, is 2 years old, which in terms of gacha make her a grandma. Backpulling, or spending crystals on a banner that is having a rerun, is almost always discouraged, as crystals are an incredibly rare resource. PE desperately needs her gear, as she has no free-to-play alternatives. She also needs 2 separate Valkyries with their best-in-slot gear just to do decent damage. Not only is physical the most expensive type to build in the game and has a low amount of coverage, it's often not needed. Elemental teams can brute force content, favoring physical teams just fine. The pink-haired girl, Hersher of Human, Ego, or Ho-He, is newer than PE, but still over a year old at the time of this recording. Like PE, she'll need 2 other Valkyries with their full gear, such as Reverus Calico or Shigeru Kira. Ho also has a lot of competition from other Valkyries who can score just as well as her, with Hersher of Truth being more versatile at a cheaper cost than Ho. If you are wondering what to pull, the best thing to do is to ask on the Honkai Discord server. Again, you should almost never backpull, since gear and Valkyries get old fast, with special Divine Key weapons being a small exception due to providing a permanent attack boost buff for all your Valkyries. Pulling a banner on release is usually good because you get to enjoy using the Valkyrie/gear for longer, and there's less time for the gear or Valkyrie to be power crept than on a banner rerun. Some banners are special and either offer free pulls like with Sushang, aka Jade Knight's gear banner when she was released, or offer a discounted price like Prometheus's gear banner. Discounted banners work by offering 5 free focus cards for every 10 pulls, so pulling 40 times on a discounted banner gives you 20 free pulls. These banners are usually good to pull on. I would also caution against pulling on banners for lowering the hard pity counter, which is the number on the top right that tells you how many pulls you need to make until you have a 100% guarantee of getting the Valkyrie/a piece of her gear, because you then accidentally get a Valkyrie that is useless without her gear. or you end up with only half of a Valkyrie's gear. Similarly, one should not pull on any banner without a sizable amount of crystals. You need a lot of crystals to get a Valkyrie and her gear, and many Valkyries need to have their weapon and gear to work properly. If the hard pity to get one piece of a Valkyrie's gear is 30 pulls, then you'll need on average 60 pulls to get all 4 pieces, which is the weapon and the 3 stigmata pieces. If the hard pity is instead 50 pulls per piece, then you'll need on average 90 pulls to get all 4 pieces. Getting a regular Valkyrie herself is about 70 pulls on average. Because investing in Valkyries is costly, it's important to not only have a good amount of crystals on hand when pulling a supply banner, but also to pull the correct supply banners. Other places to not invest crystals are as follows. 1. The Dorm Banner. The Dorm Banner should only be pulled on with special Dorm cards and only during a spending event. This is because the Valkyries obtained from the Dorm Banner suck, barring very few exceptions. That also means you shouldn't buy the 10 Dorm cards for 1500 crystals, since that's an awful offer. Although, I don't remember when that offer wasn't awful. 2. Any banner that has farmable gear or Valks should not be pulled on with crystals. If you can grind for it, then you shouldn't pull on it. 3. Exchanging crystals for stamina. You can get a lot of stamina daily. If that's not enough, you can also get stamina potions from events and daily sign-ins. 4. Skins. These are only for very endgame players. Their only benefit is that they look nice and they make your PP go big. Trust me, you don't want to have 4 outfits for a Valkyrie you don't even have. 5. Buying anything with crystals from the Logistics Terminal Shop. As of patch 7.0 and 7.1, the pull priority is heavily dependent on how many crystals you have and which gear you currently own. New players will want to keep rerolling and creating new accounts until they get Lunar Vow, the vampire with the big badonka honkers, within their first 10 pulls. This is because Lunar Vow is a Valkyrie that can deal a lot of lightning and bleed damage, making her perfect for when lightning or bleed Valkyries are wanted. Also because she has big badonka honkers. She's good when paired with Golden Diva and Herrscher of Truth, but since players will likely not have either Herrscher of Truth or Golden Diva's gun, Echo of Paradise, putting her with either Golden Diva, Shigure Kira, Starry Impression, Reverus Calico, or Fischl will work. You'll want to get all of her gear, so take advantage of those 10 free pulls. You'll want to save your leftover crystals for version 7.1 and get Griseo Skywalker's gear, as she also does bleed damage and can work with Lunar Vow for bleed content.
I've been looking forward to this.
As for Herrscher of Sentience's gear banner, despite the fact that she will be given for free in version 7.1, I would recommend for you not to pull on her gear banner, especially if you do not have a really good physical team. New players should avoid Herrscher of Sentience's gear banner like the plague. Players that already have Herrscher of Rebirth and are missing some of her gear should pull on Herrscher of Rebirth's gear until they fully gear her. Keep in mind that what you will pull on is heavily account dependent, so it is best to ask in the official Discord server. If you wish to reroll for Herrscher of Truth or Lunar Vow. Now that you know what to save your crystals for, let's actually make some more crystals. Finish off phase 1 of the growth regimen by beating up Bronya in the last stage of chapter 1 and completing a mechanics tutorial, which is unlocked at level 15. Your phase reward is 800 crystals and a seal battlesuit, Swallowtail Phantasm, which is an okay early game battlesuit. To complete a mechanics tutorial, click on the attack button from the main home screen, select the event side tab, then click the mechanics bar at the top. It is important to do every mechanics tutorial as they give you a basic idea of how to play the game effectively. Character tutorials is accessed from the same screen, and is extremely helpful by providing you an in-depth overview of how to play a specific Valkyrie and how to form a team around her. Aichan gives a helpful demonstration at the end of each character tutorial on how to effectively do a team rotation with said Valkyrie with the goal of maximizing damage output. The first mechanics tutorial you are instructed to do is Special Attack, which illustrates the difference between charged attacks and combo attacks. Generally, a Valkyrie can only do either charged or combo attacks, which can be determined by reading the Valkyrie skill list. As a side note, some stigmata and weapon effects can only be triggered by either charged or combo attacks. After finishing phase 1 of the growth regimen, it's time to finish phase 2. The requirements for completing Phase 2 are pretty easy. All you have to do is claim your free weapon, Azure Storm, that you get from unlocking Swallowtail Phantasm, then equip Azure Storm on her. You'll also want to equip the free Stigmata, Ryonosuke Akutagawa, on her as well. Then raise Ryonosuke and Azure Storm's level to 25. The last two steps are to complete Swallowtail Phantasm's character tutorial, access from the same place as the mechanics tutorial, and to complete one material event. Material events can be accessed by clicking the attack button from the home screen, then by clicking on Material Expedition from the attack sidebar. Material Expedition is the portmanteau of two different game modes. One, Material Events, which give you equipment upgrade and enhancement materials, experience chips to level up Valkyries, and a special currency called Asterite that is used to buy and upgrade a whole slew of things in the game. And 2, Expeditions, which I'll explain later. Material events refresh daily, so make sure to do every event listed there every day. Completing Phase 2 of the Growth Regimen rewards you with 800 crystals and another battlesuit, Bronya's Yamabuki armor. Like Swallowtail Phantasm, don't invest too many materials into strengthening Yamabuki armor, as both battlesuits are only suitable before level 50. She does have a neat gimmick where you can parry an enemy's attack and immediately riposte. With Phase 2 completed, let's move on to Phase 3. The first two missions of Phase 3 are to obtain Yamabuki armor and complete her tutorial stages. Upon completion of the Bronya-related missions, head back to the Material Expedition screen. Click on the Expeditions tab, then complete any expedition listed here. Expeditions are mainly used to farm fragments for Valkyries that have a base rank of A and are not SP-type Valks. Farm enough fragments for a Valkyrie, and you can then rank up the Valkyrie to S, SS, and finally SSS rank, or triple S rank, unlocking new skills and raising her stats to make her more powerful. Expeditions are broken into acts, or stages, each with a max number of daily attempts that also functions as a hard pity counter. If you can try an act at most 3 times daily, then you are guaranteed to get a fragment for that Valkyrie within 3 attempts. This pity account remains even if you don't use all attempts in one day. Thus, the most cost-effective approach is to choose the act that minimizes X times Y, where X is the number of max daily attempts and Y is the stamina cost for one daily attempt. Formula is min XY, so don't complain that you don't use math outside of school. Which Valkyrie you choose to farm is up to you, just know that every Valkyrie farmable through Expeditions is practically useless. What Expeditions is good for is getting AE Imaginons or ranking up Dorm Valkyries to boost your Dorm level and Dorm stats. Getting fragments for any Valkyrie that is at the maxed rank of SSS is also useful, as you can then convert those fragments to Witch Orbs, which are redeemed in the Witch's Corridor shop. Converting fragments is done by clicking on the Equipment tab, selecting the Recycle Fragments button, then selecting any fragment that is not grayed out and converting it into Witch Orbs. As for what to actually get from the Witch Orb shop, the only stuff that's actually useful there is normal crystal cores and stamps. Head back to the home screen, then click on the Dorm tab at the bottom right corner of the screen. The Dorm feature consists of several aspects crammed together into one screen. The portal labeled Dorm actually takes you to the Dorm, where you basically play anime chibi sims. Divine Keys will be expanded upon later. At the bottom left we have the menu, which gives you a list of adorable versions of Valkyries and Stigmatas dubbed chibis that can reside in the Dorm. Below that is the Dorm Squad level. The Dorm Squad level reflects how many Valkyries you own. Leveling up the Dorm Squad is done by unlocking new Valkyries and raising their ranks. You can see how to raise your Dorm Squad level by clicking on the EXP Sources tab in the top right corner. You can earn up to 180 Dorm EXP from Valkyries with a base rank of A. There is no cap on Dorm EXP for Valkyries with a base rank of S. Clicking on a Valkyrie icon here tells you how much Dorm EXP you get for unlocking the Valkyrie, and which ranks will give you more Dorm EXP. As an example, Susheng gives you 6 Dorm EXP for unlocking her, and 10 more Dorm EXP for raising her to SS rank. Raising the Dorm Squad level boosts passive stats applied to all Valkyries. Clicking on a row in the stats bonus screen shows you the corresponding buffs for that Dorm level. For example, my Dorm level is 41, which gives me a 6% increase in total damage dealt and a 26.5% increase in elemental damage dealt. Raising the level also provides some other special benefits, which are summarized in the Functions tab. Increasing the Dorm level increases how many coins are generated per hour, the coin storage cap, excess stamina storage ratio and cap, and the Expedition Stamina. Back in the dorm overview screen, stamina that is generated after you hit the capped amount is stored in the Stamina Depot. Passively generated coins are stored next to it in the refinery. Next to the passive buff list is the Valkyries button, which brings you back to the Valkyrie overview screen that we saw earlier. Finally, we have expeditions, errands, and shop. Completing an expedition from the Material Expedition screen and scoring 3 stars allows you to auto-complete, or sweep, that same expedition here, so you don't have to manually play the act every time. You'll have to manually complete the act and score 3 stars in order to sweep it from the dorm screen. Doing it for the first time is one of the missions for Phase 3 of the Growth Regimen. You'll also want to dispatch Valkyries on errands to earn dorm points like you're playing a family-friendly version of... Dorm points can be redeemed at the dorm shop. The only things worth redeeming there are crystalline balls, Taurus, dorm cards, and Asterite. Dispatching Valkyries on an errand completes one more mission of Phase 3 of the Growth Regimen. Only one more mission left, and that's to complete Chapter 2 of the story. I recommend you speed run through the story now, get the rewards, then enjoy it at your own leisure. Especially since the latest story chapter offers additional limited time exclusive rewards. You can rewatch story chapters at Mad Doctor's YouTube channel. Link will be provided in the description below. The most important part of Chapter 2 gameplay-wise is type counters. Remember, each Valkyrie has a type, and most enemies do too. There's a handy-dandy diagram that showcases which types counter and are countered by other types. Valkyries do 30% more damage to countered enemies, and do 30% less damage to enemies that counter her. So, if you're facing a psychic enemy, you don't want to deploy a mecha DPS, but rather a biologic DPS. Unless you're out of options, then good luck. Psychic, or Psi enemies tend to have a purple and white color schema and look like animals. Mecha, or mech enemies, are generally mechas, many of which have a blue schema. Biologic or bio enemies have a yellow and white schema. Many bio enemies look like zombies. Quantum or Qua enemies are a deep shade of purple when superposed, i.e. not collapsed, and completely white when collapsed. Superposed quantum enemies have immunity to certain debuffs like freeze and stun, and receive less damage. Forcing quantum enemies to become collapsed through a quantum collapse makes them receive more damage and removes their immunity to debuffs. A quantum collapse is triggered either through evading their special attack, marked by a special flash and ding sound, or by using a Quantum Valkyrie's ultimate. Finally, imaginary or image enemies have a black and yellow schema and have philosophical names like tautology. They have an outer core and an inner shell. The inner shell can only be damaged when the outer core has no remaining HP, making imaginary enemies a pain to deal with. Some imaginary Valkyries can sidestep this mechanic by directly targeting the inner shell. Version 7.1 introduces a new type called Stardust, which counters itself. Stardust enemies have 2 states, Biomorph, where they are pink, and Solid State, where they become white. In Biomorph state, attacking the enemy will reduce its normal HP bar until it reaches the critical index point, where the enemy changes to the solid state for a period of time. During this time, attacks against the enemy will reduce its max HP, and the enemy's attacks will become stronger. Picking up shards that the enemy drops during the state change will make your own attack stronger. The enemy is defeated when either their max HP bar or normal HP bar is reduced to 0. As for the story, Chapter 2 takes place in St. Freya High School, a training ground for up-and-coming Schicksal Valkyries. You'll be introduced to the principal, Teresa Apocalypse, who, like Nahida, is a legal loli, so the FBI can't trouble you. There's also renowned Burb, Fu Hua, who acts as a class monitor, and Murata Himiko, Kiana's teacher, who acts as an important character for a long part of the story. After preparing for her exams, Kiana enters into a dream where she fights the Hersher of the Void. A fight ensues between the two, where Hersher of the Void disappears and resolves that she will never be just a memory. With Phase 3 completed, it's time for a little housekeeping. The Sensei Cadet feature, unlocked at level 10, allows you to find a Sensei. The benefit of becoming a cadet is that you gain a ton of crystals and dorm cards from completing phases, each of which have 3 missions. In a way, it's similar to the Growth Regimen, just with lesser rewards. These missions need to be completed before you hit Captain level 76. Otherwise, they get lost forever. Upon reaching Captain level 17, you can join an Armada. You'll mainly want to use your Armada to request materials like Valkyrie Fragments and Crystallite, post and collect commissions, and to complete sim battle for a small amount of rewards. Captain level 14 unlocks BP missions, whereas Captain level 20 unlocks the Battle Pass, or BP. BP can be accessed either by clicking the Missions or BP button from the home screen. BP missions consist of daily and weekly missions. Completing missions listed in this tab fills up both the daily BP limit and the weekly BP limit. The daily BP limit caps at 600 points, with milestones along the way giving you rewards. You can see your daily BP progress at the bottom of the BP missions tab. The weekly BP limit caps at 10,000 points. Your BP level will not increase after going past the weekly BP limit. The BP level and weekly BP progress can be viewed at the top of the BP missions and reward tabs. Daily BP missions include enhancing and upgrading gear, enhancing the level of your Valkyries, completing story stages, completing dorm errands, completing Armada commissions, completing daily material events, and more. Weekly BP missions include completing co-op raids and memorial arena stages. It's important to note that the daily and weekly BP limits are independent of each other. Just make sure to reach the daily BP limit for an easy 40 crystals. The rewards tab is where you claim rewards every time your BP level increases. The battle pass consists of 3 tiers: Vanguard, Knight, and Paladin, where Vanguard is the free-to-play tier, and Paladin is the costlier upgraded version of Knight. The higher the tier, the more rewards you can claim from the rewards tab. Paladin is less cost-effective than Knight, and is only obtained if you really need the Valkyrie Fragments. Finally, the BP Shops tab is where you can redeem Honor Chips and Crystallum obtained from the Dorm Shop and the Rewards tab. While the BP level and Honor Chips get reset every time a new patch drops, Crystallum remains for one entire season, equivalent to 4 patches. The new season started in version 7.0, so it will end 4 patches later in version 7.3. A new season will begin in version 7.4, bringing with it new Crystallum Balls. Honor Chips should be redeemed in the BP Arsenal tab before the patch ends, since any leftover Honor Chips will be taken when the patch ends. The most important thing to get here is obviously the focus card, to give you one more pull at a Valkyrie's gear banner. Crystallum should be redeemed in the BP Works tab at the end of the season, unless you're sure of what you want to get and you need it badly. You could also wait for the first patch of the new season. The first patch of any new season will temporarily have a BP Vintage tab, giving you one last chance to redeem your old Crystallum for gear that appeared in the old season's BP Works tab. The BP system can be a bit confusing, and as a gacha addict I am obligated to tell you not to buy the advanced BP tiers. And generally spend money on the game, don't suffer like I do. For reference, the starter event, material events, and some shops will open at level 15. Shops can be accessed by clicking on the supply tab, then clicking the shop tab. There are 4 types of shops: daily shop, activity shop, basic currency, and event shop. The activity shop tab has shops that have an associated currency that is obtained from doing certain permanent events, while the event shop tab has shops corresponding to ongoing limited time events. Only a few shops are accessible to you right now. For the logistics terminal shop, you should only buy items with coins. Don't waste your Asterite or your crystals here, as these are precious resources. You should especially buy fragments, even if the Valkyrie or E.L.F. is already maxed, as you can convert extra fragments into witch orbs. The exchange shop allows you to get certain weapons and stigmata. The only gear of value here are Nebulous Duality, Oath of Judah, May Beach Party, and Newton Bottom. Nebulous Duality allows its user to easily regenerate SP. Oath of Judah is a special weapon that allows all your Valkyries a permanent buff. May Beach Party and Newton Bottom are very powerful stigmata, as they boost your team's damage output tremendously. You need blue weapon resonance to buy weapons here, which you get by converting duplicate gacha weapons. Never salvage weapons, since Honkai shards are easily farmable. Red Stigma Resonance is for buying stigmata in the exchange shop, which are obtained from open worlds and from converting duplicate gacha stigmata. The 2 other main shops you'll spend a lot of time spending in, pun not intended, are the Asterite and Coin Shop, located under the Basic Currency tab. Buy whatever you need in the coin shop, though normal crystal cores are the most important. The Asterite shop priority is as follows: with Griseo Skywalker's fragments being the most important since she is the newest SP-type Valkyrie. 1. Monthly purchase of 210 Ancient Willpower from the War Treasury shop, which should be done throughout the month to avoid spending all your Asterite at once. 2. S-Rank Reverus Calico. 3. SS Rank Shigure Kira. 4. S-Rank Starry Impression. 5. SS Rank Chrono Navi, if your account has a Fireteam option. This is true if you got Siren and Chakram. 6. SS Rank Terminal Aid, and SSS Rank if you have all her gear. 7. S Rank Golden Diva, only if you own her signature weapon, Echo of Paradise, and have Lunar Vow, and don't have a suitable replacement, otherwise just ignore her. 8. SSS Rank Shigure Kira. 9. SS Rank Reverus Calico, if you still use her a lot. 10. Buying Fulminata Augment Cores to unlock Valkyrie Blade Strike to use in Elysian Realm. 11. 3 mini wafer black boxes per week. 12. Finish getting SSS rank for the SP Valkyries that you use. 13. Buying SC Metal H2 and Mind Stones when needed. 14. Buying Honkai Shards and Einstein's Taurus as needed. You'll notice that the only augment core that I mentioned is Fulminata Augment Core. This is because all the other augment cores are practically useless, and you should not buy any augment cores to unlock the augment for any battlesuit. As with most priority lists, the Asterite priority list is heavily dependent on the account and changes every time a new SP-type Valkyrie is released. Refer to the official Discord server and use your own discretion to figure out what you want to get from the Asterite shop. Should you need more coins or Asterite, you can go to the Equipment tab and select the button with the money bag, with a lightning bolt label on it, to convert certain material into coins and Asterite. Usually the materials that you want to convert are SS Imaginon, surplus AE Imaginon, surplus Mind Stones, and surplus Fluid Alloy Blocks. Character trials and certain story stages also offer Asterite as a reward. Speaking of the story, once you reach Captain level 24, you'll be able to access Chronicles. Chronicles contain short stories that offer decent rewards for completing them. These can be completed leisurely and do not have a major impact on the main story. We've now completed 1/3 of the phases in the Growth Regimen, and can move on to Phase 4. The first 3 tasks are easy. Obtain Marco Polo T or M from the training shop, and raise it to level 40. You also need to reach 300 daily BP for 1 day. If this isn't already marked as done, make sure to complete the daily missions in the mission screen. You'll also have to mark them as done by hitting Claim. After hitting Captain level 18, Sakura Samsara, the first of Honkai Impact's 4 open worlds, is unlocked. From the home screen, hit the attack button, then hit the open world box on the left side of the screen. You'll then be teleported to rural Japan, where Kiana, Mei, and Bronya are tasked with ensuring the happiness of Miko Ye Sakura and Nun Kalin Kaslana, the latter of whom is the ancestor of Kiana. The plot is basically like ReZero, where the story structure is divided into acts dubbed Samsaras. At the end of each Samsara, something bad happens and our trio rewinds time to the beginning to try again and avoid any bad endings. Completion of one Samsara unlocks the next. The second Samsara unlocks the ability to gather materials from the open world. Quick tip, gathering materials manually is pretty slow. You can auto-collect them by crafting Shio Ramen in the function menu. The second Samsara also unlocks elite enemies, hidden events, and adventure tasks. Adventure tasks are incredibly important as they provide a steady income of important material, such as EXP for leveling up, coins, AE Imaginon that can be exchanged for Honkai Shards for upgrading weapons, and Valkyrie Fragments. When selecting adventure tasks, it is important to choose the ones that offer crystals, fragments for SP-type Valkyries, and AE Imaginon. Up to 5 adventure tasks can be selected per cycle. There are 3 cycles per week, Monday to Wednesday, Thursday to Friday, and Saturday to Sunday. Every Monday, open worlds are reset, refreshing hidden events and collectible materials and giving you weekly finalization rewards. Your adventure task level, increased through completing open world adventure tasks, determines how much rewards you get upon weekly finalization. A higher adventure task level also increases the rewards and difficulty level of open world adventure tasks. Completing the third Samsara gives you access to the Celestial Castle area and also gives you a Foxy Familiar, Higo Kumaru. Leveling her up will expand her skill set, allowing you to perform stealth assassinations, teleportation, and much more. Important side note, upon unlocking a new open world, it will remain activated and unlocked for the first 2 weeks. After this period, the open world becomes closed, and you will have to manually reactivate it on Monday for the entire week. Activating a map refreshes the map with enemies and collectibles, and allows you to accept and complete adventure tasks. The catch is that you can only activate one open world at a time. Locked open worlds will have no enemies, and you will not be able to accept new adventure tasks. Because there are 4 different open worlds, it is possible to reach the level requirement for unlocking these open worlds. And since you have a 2-week trial period for each open world upon unlocking it, it is possible for a brief time to have multiple open worlds unlocked and activated at the same time. The open worlds will close one by one after their 2-week trial period, upon which you will have to choose one open world to activate for the week. Since it costs stamina to accept adventure tasks, it can quickly become taxing on your stamina when multiple open worlds are activated. This is a good time to start practicing stamina management. Stamina potions used to regain a bit of stamina should be used when needed and not willy-nilly. You must also ensure that your stamina is never capped. Once your stamina is maxed, excess stamina will be generated at a much slower rate and sent to the stamina storage, located in the dorm tab. It is vital to ration stamina such that you are able to complete time-limited events, material event and co-op stages, and open-world adventure tasks. Other stamina drainers such as story stages and Chronicles can be done when you have an excess amount of stamina. That being said, finish the first and second Samsaras of Sakura Samsara, then complete 5 adventure tasks. With these 2 missions are done, we can finally focus on the last mission of Phase 4 of the Growth Regimen, Abyss Challenge. Abyss, unlocked at level 25, is the primary source of crystal income in the game. For reference, Elysian Realm is the second. Captains under level 81 will play Q-Manifold, whereas captains who have reached level 81, or Exalted, will play Superstring Dimension. The game refers to both Q-Manifold and Superstring Dimension as Abyss. Playing Abyss, starting out, will give you a good tutorial for how the game mode works. Abyss has 2 cycles, one running from Monday to Wednesday, and the second running from Friday to Sunday. Each cycle has its own weather and stage skills to buff and debuff Valkyries, which is why you can't have a main team in Honkai. Too bad, so sad. The weather I am currently in gives a buff for Valkyries that deal physical damage and a skill that gathers enemies and make them take more total damage. The higher the current dimension is, the stronger the enemies you face will be, and the more difficult it will be to complete each floor. The current dimension goes up if the average clear time for captains in your bracket is low, ensuring a dynamic difficulty. Q-Manifold has 10 floors. The 10th floor is the boss floor. You get 1000 points for clearing the boss, and extra bonus points based off of your clear time. If you beat the boss fast enough, you get additional rewards. Q-Manifold also has tiers: Sinful, Agony, and Red Lotus. Completing certain floors when in the Sinful tier promotes you to Agony tier. Failure to complete these floors keeps you at Sinful tier. To retain Agony tier, you must complete certain floors, otherwise you will get relegated to Sinful tier. Defeating the boss promotes you to Red Lotus tier. To retain Red Lotus tier, you must clear the final boss in under 120 seconds, otherwise you will get relegated to Agony tier. Being placed in a higher tier gives you the chance for more rewards but also pits you against harder enemies. Superstring functions in a similar manner to Q-Manifold, with a few key differences. Current dimension is renamed to Disturbance, though it serves the same purpose. Relegating, retaining, or promoting to a new tier is based on how fast you clear the final boss, not on whether you complete a certain floor. Superstring also includes a tier below Sinful titled Forbidden, which is miHoYo's way of acknowledging that some players are complete slackers and rely on their parents' credit card to keep up. And lastly, Superstring has only 4 stages. 3 stages share the same weather, whereas the 4th stage has a completely different weather to throw people off. The last stage is still the boss stage. Since it only takes a month to reach level 81 now, this information will be useful sooner than you think. Of course, since Abyss relies on you completing floors to obtain rewards, it is extremely important for you to learn how exactly to build a team. First, some clarification is in order. A DPS Valkyrie is any Valkyrie that does a lot of damage. That's it. A support Valkyrie is a Valkyrie that helps the DPS Valkyrie do more damage. You can usually tell if a Valkyrie is a support if she has skills that buff other Valkyries. For example, Terminal Aid has a skill called Past and Future that increases the team's melee physical damage when she hits enemies with their move Regen Super Partner. Conversely, a DPS Valkyrie will have skills that make sure she does a lot of damage. For example, Hersher of Thunder's ultimate skill, Futsuno Mitama, increases the damage she deals when she performs her ultimate, Amaterasu's Ride. A SP Valkyrie is a base A rank Valkyrie with a SP label on her. SP Valkyries has a special way of upgrading skills that looks like some kind of DNA thingy, although I'm pretty sure it's just there to look cool. SP Valkyries also need advanced materials to level up their skills, which you can get easily from the training shop. These Valkyries are often support type Valkyries, but can also be DPS type Valkyries as well. The general format of your teams will be as follows. For physical teams, the team consists of a DPS that deals physical damage, a Valkyrie that can physically impair the enemy, which has the effect of reducing their defense and making them take more damage, and a physical SP type Valkyrie. Examples of Valkyries that can impair are Terminal Aid, HoTr of Sentience, and HoTr of Rebirth in her support form. The DPS and SP Valkyrie should have their signature gear, since alternative builds are generally not viable in this game. HoTr of Sentience is generally more flexible with what build she can have, depending on the situation. She can use the Shattered Sword Stigmata set as a general support build, the Holm Stigmata set for bleed content, and Pericles and Infinite Intimidator, aka Ignorance of Current Affairs, as a DPS build. Fire and Lightning teams consist of a Fire or Lightning DPS with 2 supports. Older players would have either HoTr of Truth, Reverus Calico, or even Shigerakira as support number 1. Support number 2 is either Eden, aka Golden Diva, for Lightning teams, or Chrono Navi for Fire teams. The issue is that HoTr of Truth, Reverus Calico, and Golden Diva are all showing their age, so I would caution against getting their gear. Ice teams are a bit more tricky, though you will most likely have some Ice DPS combined with 2 from the following: Jade Knight, Reverus Calico, Haxor Bunny, and Shigerakira. I recommend Jade Knight and Shigerakira for being newer Ice Valkyries. One can also use a triple support team, such as HoTr of Truth with Shigerakira and Jade Knight to form an Ice team, or HoTr of Sentience with Terminal Aid and Sweet and Spicy to form a physical team. I can't stress this enough. Most Valkyries will need their best in slot gear. Many elemental SP Valkyries can get by with using Turgenev top and bottom with a filler middle piece, or Jin Shengtan top and middle with Newton bottom. Best in slot, BIS, gear for these Valkyries is better than Turgenev top and bottom, which is better than Jin Shengtan top and middle. Best in slot gear does not necessarily correspond with Valkyrie signature gear or the in-game recommendations. In-game recommendations for gear can range from being absolutely right to absolutely wrong, so again, ask in the official Honkai Discord server for help on how to build your team. As for beginners, since they will likely not have good gear, their best bet will be to follow the Asterite investment guide I mentioned earlier, and invest their crystals in whatever the Valkyrie of the current patch is. New players will be able to get 2 new Valkyries fully geared if they invest wisely. So if you start in version 7.0, that would be Lunar Vow and her gear, and Griseo Skywalker's gear. No need to get Griseo Skywalker herself, she's farmable. If they started in version 6.9 or 7.0, then for Fire or Ignite teams, they can use either Siren and her Chakram, or Dea and Korra, since the latter is free in version 7.0. For Lightning and Bleed teams, new players can utilize Lunar Vow and some combination of Golden Diva, Reverus Calico, and either the Big or Little Griseo, i.e. Griseo Skywalker and Starry Impression. For physical teams, HoTr of Sentience is free in version 7.1, so you can use her with Terminal Aid and some other physical Valkyrie. For Ice teams, new players will probably be using Shigerakira and Jade Knight. Other beginner builds include 1. Marco Polo top and middle, and Attila bottom, for physical damage dealing Valkyries. Marco Polo is free from the training shop, and Attila bottom is a common off-rate from pulling gacha banners. 2. Full Robert Perry, Reverus Calico. Robert Perry is obtained for free from the training shop, and goes great on Reverus Calico and Shigerakira. Gilded Libre is an okay option for Chakram users, but do not level it beyond level 35. 3. Jin Shengtan top and middle, and Newton bottom for elemental SP support Valkyries. This is somewhat worse than Turgenev top and bottom for them, though since Turgenev is old, pray that you can off-rate it from a banner, or redeem Turgenev if you get special bonuses from spending events. 4. Miracle Magical Girl Siren's Stigmata set, Little Joys, which looks like it could work with any fire DPS, though obviously works best with Miracle Magical Girl Siren. 5. Teresa Gluttony top. It is an extremely overpowered Stigmata piece considering its cheap crafting cost. New players should get 2 or 3 of them. Good for support Valkyries when coupled with Fu Hua Musician middle and bottom, obtained for free from the training shop. 6. The full rolled Admundsen set, a cheap set for elemental support Valkyries. It's a common off-rate from Gacha. 7. Edison top, middle, and bottom, a beginner lightning stigmata set. Do not get Darwin. 8. The Teresa Origins stigmata set and Ogier bottom, both serving as generic physical supports. 9. Crafting stigmata from the Foundry, such as Dirac, Andal, Elysia, Leeuwenhoek, Willows, Olms, and Shijing. You should only craft these after you receive advice on what to craft. A link is in the description for a full guide on what stigmatas to craft from the Foundry. Team building is also heavily dependent on the context. What is this team going to be used for? Unlike Genshin, there's no such thing as a main team. You'll need at least 2 functional teams for Abyss in the beginning. One for brute forcing everything except for where the weather hard counters that team, which is what the second team is for. Memorial Arena has 3 bosses per week, so you'll need 3 separate teams for that. Some extra guidelines for building a team are as follows. 1. Utilizing type counter. For example, Psi enemies deal 30% more damage to mech enemies, and 30% less damage to bio. 2. Utilizing weather buffs and avoiding weather debuffs. If ranged Valkyries do more damage in the current weather, pick Valkyries that do ranged damage. Don't do melee Valks. 3. Debuffing the enemy so that you deal more damage. Damage modifiers like impairing the enemy and applying Elemental Breach helps achieve this. 4. Having skills or gear that buff your DPS. For example, Newton Bottom gives a short time period where attacks against an enemy have increased damage. 5. Making it easier to buff your DPS or supports. Some weapons / stigmata are not good with Valkyries for this reason. Turgenev is not good on some Valkyries since it's hard for the effects to be reapplied. This is why Edison is favored over Darwin, since it's easier for the stigmata effects to be triggered, and Edison is also cheaper to craft than Darwin. 6. Synergy between Valkyries. You generally don't want a 3 DPS team, with the exception of Trio, and you don't want to pair a physical support with an elemental DPS. 7. Synergy between a Valkyrie and her gear. If a stigmata set says increased damage when you're far from enemies, putting it on melee Valks is stupid. A stigmata set may only work for Valkyries that deal damage in burst mode or deal combo or charged attacks. Paganini is one such example. Read the Valkyrie's skill descriptions to figure out which type of attack she uses and whether she uses burst mode or not. The gear's element should also match the Valk's element. Willows and Hersher of Reason are both ice, so those match with each other. 8. Making it easier and more efficient to damage enemies. For example, gathering or freezing enemies so you can actually hit them. This is especially useful for enemies that decide to randomly fly around at hyperspeed like they're a mosquito on cocaine. 9. Using buffs applicable to the game mode. Valkyries that can slow or stop time are good for time-sensitive game modes like Memorial Arena. If Abyss has Ignite Weather, use Valkyries that can ignite. 10. Ensuring that the Valkyries you have can easily trigger each other's QTE so that you have a smooth team rotation. This can be ignored for Valkyries that should have their QTEs off, like Hersher of Truth. 11. Applying buffs in the correct order and rotating your Valkyries in such a manner that when it is time for your DPS to deal damage, the duration of the applied buffs has not run out. For example, a special buff is activated when the Hersher of Truth casts her ultimate. This buff increases the damage other Valkyries deal, so it is important that the DPS in that team performs their attacks that deal the most damage when the buff is activated. 12. Utilizing Valkyries and Stigmatas that can activate damage modifiers. Examples of damage modifiers include Impair and Elemental Breach, which reduces how much damage an enemy can resist. Valkyries that can activate these modifiers, like Hersher of Sentience, Hersher of Rebirth, and Hersher of Truth, are incredibly important. 13. For quantum enemies, understanding how to trigger Quantum Collapse to cause them to turn to white and receive more damage. For imaginary enemies, learning how to either directly deal damage to the seed even when the shell is activated, or how to perform a one-hit KO when the seed is vulnerable. Only imaginary Valkyries can do this. 14. Ensuring you are following the meta. Even if you are a casual player, knowing what to invest in when makes it easier on you. ranks are less important than having really good supports, hence why we dubbed the game Support Impact Third. You don't have to strictly follow the meta if you play for fun, but I advise you not to get a Valkyrie just because she looks pretty or she has big booba. The exception here is you don't really care about the meta and you just want to collect your waifus. In that case, go for it. Hopefully, this explains why certain Valkyries with certain gear in certain teams are favored in certain situations. HoTr of Truth and HoTr of Sentience are considered good Valkyries because of these reasons. They have skills that make it easier to buff the DPS Valkyrie on your team, can easily synergize with other Valkyries, can buff DPS Valkyries to deal more damage and debuff and gather enemies to make them take more damage, can easily slow down time, and are part of the meta. Luckily, HoTr of Sentience is free during version 7.1. I would caution against investing in HoTr of Truth since it's already been a few months since she was released. It is also helpful to learn of the different types of damage sources to make those juicy numbers go up. A helpful video will be listed in the description below on the complicated mess that is Honkai's damage sources, but I will briefly describe them here. The first part concerns clearing up some confusing wording that miHoYo has put into gear and Valkyrie descriptions. 1. Burst Mode, where Valkyrie's playstyle significantly changes during her ultimate. Usually, except for Stygian Nymph. Honestly, just go to the Valkyries menu. Valkyries with Burst Mode will have the burst tag there. 2. After Exit. Usually seen on Stigmata descriptions, like Fuhua Musician. What this means is that the Valkyrie just has to be off-field for the effects of the Stigmata to kick in. If that effect has an associated duration of time, then the effect will be active for that stated duration. This duration counts down whenever the Valkyrie is off-field, including at the beginning of a battle. 3. Ultimate Evasion is basically just dodging the enemy, giving each team member 2 SP. The Ultimate Evasion skill is triggered when you perform an Ultimate Evasion. Keep in mind that the Ultimate Evasion skill has a cooldown, which is displayed as a circle bar around the evasion button. 4. Time Slow, which is a status effect that slows down the target enemy. Resistance to the status effect does vary, with enemies like Coatl, Revenant barely slowing down. Debuffs applied to the enemy have an extended duration, though there are some exceptions. Time Lock is a 100% time slow, temporarily freezing the enemy. Time Fracture performs a time lock on every enemy and slows down the game clock. You'll notice that a time fracture is triggered when the game timer is slowed down and the screen turns a dark bluish shade. To recap on time manipulation abilities in the game, first, we have Time Slow, which temporarily slows an enemy's movements down. Keep in mind that not every enemy can be affected with Time Slow. Next, we have Time Lock, which performs a 100% time slow on a particular enemy, basically freezing him into place. After that, we have Time Fracture, which is effectively a time slow on every enemy in the game, slowing down the clock timer and changing the background into a deeper shade of purple. Time Slow, Time Lock, and Time Fracture have the added ability of increasing the duration of buffs and debuffs. Finally, there's Absolute Time Fracture, which is a unique ability for HoTr Finality that completely stops time, including buff timers. Some Valkyries have skills that list Time Frozen Domain, like HoTr of Origin's Essence of Kirakaishi. Time Frozen Domain is considered the same as Absolute Time Fracture, usually found on S ranks released after HoTr of Sentience on their abilities with long animations, like ultimates. 5. Gauntlet/Fist, Pistol, and Katana users usually use combo attacks. Greatsword, Heavy/Cannon weapon, Cross, Scythe, Lance, and Bow users usually use charged attacks. Valkyries that deal charged attacks cannot dish out combo attacks, and vice versa. The exceptions here are HoTr of the Void, Starlit Astrologos, Infinite Ouroboros, Sweet and Spicy, and whatever miHoYo's mood at the moment is because they can't stick to their own rules that they created. Hence, a Stigmata whose effects are triggered when using charge attacks should not be used on Valkyries that deal combo attacks. And the second part is about where the different sources of damage come from, called damage modifiers. 1. A Valkyrie's attack number is listed when viewing the Valkyrie from the Valkyrie overview menu. It is labeled as ATK for attack. A higher attack number means more damage. 2. Type counters either multiply or decrease the damage a Valkyrie deals by 30%. If a Psi Valkyrie deals 1000 damage to a bio enemy, then the bio enemy will only take 700 damage. 3. Some skills have statements like deals 2400% of attack as fire damage. What you do here is multiply the Valkyrie's attack number by 24. You then apply other damage modifiers to see how much damage the skill dishes out. 4. Crit damage, which applies to physical Valkyries only. Sorry, this isn't Genshin. Basically, every time you perform an attack, there's a chance it will be marked as a critical hit. The chance for this to happen is called the crit rate. A critical hit is marked as a golden number and does more damage than a non-critical hit. How much more damage a critical hit does over a non-critical hit is determined by the crit damage multiplier stat. Note that CRT does not refer to crit damage here, but is actually part of the crit damage calculation. I'm going to throw some formulas up here. So basically, if you have a CRT level of 140, then a level 80 Valkyrie will have a crit rate of 140 divided by 475, or 29.5%, assuming no crit rate buffs. Imperia Phoenix Bottom is a stigmata that boosts team crit damage by 25% for 15 seconds when the holder performs a combo attack. Thus, the crit damage multiplier becomes 2 plus 0.25 equals 2.25, so critical hits do 2.25 times the damage of non-critical hits. Honestly, people don't actually sit down and math these out. We just kinda guess and hope for the best. Point is, only physical can crit here, and higher crit rate and higher crit damage multiplier equals stonks. We don't build crit rate like Honkai Star Rail or Genshin Impact, we just bald for a better score and lose hair in the process. That's why we look like 60 when we're actually 20. 5. Physical, elemental, and total damage multipliers. For example, Aladdin Middle increases the physical damage the team deals to bleeding enemies by 20%. If you deal 1000 physical damage, congrats, you now deal 1200 physical damage. Now if you had a second Aladdin Middle equipped on a different team member, the physical damage multiplier does not multiply. Instead, the two physical damage multipliers are additive, so you would deal 1400 damage. Crit damage and total damage are treated separately from physical damage, so crit damage multipliers and total damage multipliers multiply with physical damage multipliers. However, crit damage multipliers will still stack additively with itself. The same applies for total damage multipliers. Hence, if you deal 1000 base damage, then if you have a 100% physical damage multiplier, a 100% crit damage multiplier, and a 100% total damage multiplier, you will finally deal 8000 damage, subject to other damage modifiers of course. You can think of these as 3 different pools of damage modifiers, which stack additively with itself and stack multiplicatively with other pools. 6. One can also debuff the enemy itself, causing it to take more physical/elemental damage, or to take more total damage. These 2 damage modifiers are separate from the 3 damage multipliers listed earlier, that is, increasing physical/elemental damage dealt, increasing total damage dealt, and crit damage multiplier. This means we now have 5 separate damage pools so far. 7. The weather itself can also increase or reduce the amount of damage dealt. This is MiHoYo's way of forcing you to keep up with the meta, because they need to make money. 8. The enemies themselves can also reduce the damage you deal. This is called elemental and physical resist effects. If Jizo Matima has a 72% elemental resist, then that means that you multiply the elemental damage you deal by 0.28. Of course, breaking shields reduces the resist effect that an enemy has. Breaking Dominator of Wolves' shield reduces his elemental resist, making you deal more damage. 9. Of course, there's a way to get around physical resist effects, through what is called Elemental Breach. Basically, a Valkyrie that has 20% Elemental Breach will reduce the elemental resist of an enemy by 20%. In our Jizo Matima example, he would then only have 52% elemental resist, meaning that you now multiply the elemental damage you deal by 0.48, which is a vast improvement. 10. An enemy can get physical damage resist from many different places, including its shield and its defense. A higher defense stat corresponds to higher physical damage resist. Impair is a damage modifier that reduces the defense stat of an enemy, which in turn reduces its physical damage resist, which means more damage. Physical Breach is basically a stackable impair, although as of now it's pretty much unique to Elysian Realm. 11. Finally, we have independent multipliers and specific multipliers. Independent multipliers function differently from the 5 damage pools mentioned earlier, in that it stacks multiplicatively with itself and with these damage pools. You can tell if something is an independent multiplier if it says so in the description, or if it says from the host. Finally, we have specific multipliers, which are basically multipliers that depend on what you're facing. For example, Aesir Heimdall receives more damage every time you break one of his shields. Hoodoo receives more damage when he is frozen. These are a case-by-case basis, meaning that you need to read the enemy description to see how to do more damage. I place Kalin Kaslana here, as she receives no damage from elemental attacks, making her the bane of every beginner's existence. I don't know what they fed nuns back in the day, but man, I wish I could have some of that. Thus, the formula can be summarized as follows. Damage equals some mysterious starting number, times elemental damage dealt if you're an elemental Valkyrie, times elemental damage taken if you're an elemental Valkyrie, times physical damage dealt if you're a physical Valkyrie, times physical damage taken if you're a physical Valkyrie, times crit damage if you're a physical Valkyrie and you crit, times total damage dealt, times total damage taken, times the weather effect, times the type effect, times elemental resist effect if elemental, and times physical resist effect if physical. Again, I don't expect you to math it out, but it is important to have this vaguely in your mind when you consider why a Valkyrie was considered good, or potential reasons why your team doesn't do enough damage. Okay, so all you have to do is complete the tutorial stages for Q-Manifold, but you might as well also complete the actual cycle itself. Do that and you will have completed Phase 4. Your reward is 800 crystals and Darkbolt Jonin. She also sucks, so don't really invest in her. Somebody should complain about new players getting non-sucky characters. Once you hit Captain level 28, the Universal Mirage game mode becomes unlocked. This game mode is primarily used to farm currencies that can be used to craft powerful stigmata for your Valkyries. From the main menu, select Attack, then from the Challenge tab, select the Universal Mirage button. This takes you to the Universal Mirage overview screen, where iChan will give you a helpful overview of how the game mode works. Universal Mirage is split into 4 different themes: Glacial Fences, Illuminated Land, Roaring Palace, and Bladegrave. Each theme buffs Valkyries that deal a certain type of damage and debuffs Valkyries that don't deal this type of damage. Glacial Fences boosts Valkyries that deal ice damage, Illuminated Land boosts Valkyries that deal fire damage, Roaring Palace boosts Valkyries that deal lightning damage, and Bladegrave boosts Valkyries that deal physical damage. Thus, it makes sense to deploy Ice Valkyries for Glacial Fences. Each theme also has 7 different stages. Higher stages are more difficult but give more rewards. Links are in the description for budget teams that can clear the more difficult stages. The way how Universal Mirage works is that each time you clear a stage, you are rewarded with Crystallite and Ether Fuel, which are used to forge weapons and stigmata. Each theme drops a certain type of Crystallite. Ice, or Glacial Fences, themed stages drop blue Crystallite. Fire, or Illuminated Land, themed stages drop red Crystallite. Lightning, or Roaring Palace themed stages drop purple Crystallite. Physical, or Bladegrave themed stages drop grey Crystallite. Each stage in a theme also drops a certain grade of Crystallite. Floors 1, 2, and 3 drop grade 1, or Phantom, Crystallite. Floors 3, 4, and 5 drop grade 2, or Twilight, Crystallite. Floors 5 and 6 drop grade 3, or Cosmic, Crystallite, and floor 7 drops grade 4, or Pure, Crystallite. So why are types and grades important? This is because you need the correct type and grade of Crystallite to forge certain stigmatas and weapons in the Foundry. The Foundry can be accessed by going to the Supply tab from the main menu, then clicking the Foundry tab located in the bottom left corner. As you can see, we can select either weapons or stigmatas on the left. If we select stigmata, we then see the grades for Crystallite correspond to the grades that stigmata have. At the top we have grade 4 or G4 stigmata. These stigmata need to be transmuted to be forged, which means that you need the corresponding stigmata of one lower grade, special red lens, ether fuel, and crystallite of the same grade. For example, the G4 Stigmata, Willows, needs the G3 Stigmata Anashariak, 200 spatial red lens, 1100 ether fuel, and 140 G4 crystallite just to forge one piece. The high number of materials to forge G4 Stigmata is because these Stigmata are much more powerful than Stigmata of other grades. In general, the higher the grade a Stigmata is, the more powerful its effects are. Keep in mind that some Valkyries work better with lower grade Stigmata, as you can see when referring to the budget team builds link I mentioned earlier. Aside from G4 Stigmata, we also have G3, G2, G1, and G0 or basic Stigmata. It is far cheaper to directly craft G2 and G3 Stigmata, so don't transmute those. Here is a chart of how much of each currency you need to craft one piece of a Stigmata, based on its grade. G1 and G0 Stigmata are weird in that the cost to forge them fluctuates widely. You can also select the Weapons tab to see what weapons you can forge in the Foundry. The only worthwhile weapons to forge here are Gilded Libre, which should be left at level 35, Divine Keys, which include Pledge of Sakura, Abyss, and Feng Huang Opinions, and PRI Weapons. PRI Weapons are basically the super duper version of certain weapons. However, you won't be able to forge them until you reach Captain level 50. At the top of the Foundry screen are filters to help you find certain Stigmata or weapons. Back to Universal Mirage, you can see at the top right of the screen that you have 6 tickets. These are called Invites of Mirage. You get 1 invite of Mirage every day from Monday to Thursday, and 2 invites of Mirage from Friday to Sunday. Each time you clear a stage, you consume 1 invite of Mirage. You can only have up to 6 invites of Mirage at once, so make sure you clear Universal Mirage stages consistently. To the right of the Invites of Mirage counter is an indicator for how many Time Swirl passes you have. Upon completing a stage, you are given the option to select the normal amount of rewards on the left, or Mirage Horde rewards on the right. Selecting Mirage Horde rewards gives you much more crystallite and ether fuel at the cost of using some of your Time Swirl passes. Since Time Swirl passes speed up farming, they are extremely valuable. You can obtain more from starter event missions, BP Arsenal, the Mirage Store, and the Elysian Shop. You can click on one of the themes and complete the first stage. Completing a stage of any theme unlocks the next stage of the same theme. It also unlocks co-op mode, which means that if you struggle to clear a certain stage, or just too lazy to, you can just rely on a veteran to carry you. Simply select which theme you want to do, then hit the Join a Team button. Then select Create Team. Choose which stage you want to do. Then when you are ready, select Invite to invite somebody to help you clear the stage. Since you are doing co-op mode, you and your teammate cannot deploy the same Valkyrie. Having an active Sensei in Armada makes it easier to find somebody to do co-op with. If you are joining a co-op team, you can also select Assist mode at the bottom. This means that you do not consume an invite of Mirage and do not get any rewards for clearing the stage. Upon completing a stage for the first time, you are given the Mirage Horde rewards for that stage for free. As you build stronger Valkyries, you'll be able to complete harder stages. Once you have a good grasp of the basic mechanics of Universal Mirage, you'll now want to focus on farming Stigmata. You'll want to clear stages that drop crystallite of the same grade and type that matches what you need for whatever Stigmata you are farming. If you are farming the grade 2 Stigmata Jin Cheng Tan, you'll want to clear either floor 3, floor 4, or floor 5 of Glacial Fences, since you'll need grade 2 blue crystallite. Now the question becomes, how do you farm most efficiently so you aren't wasting resources? You guessed it, it's mathing time. Time to math all over these charts, and yeah, I'll just put a link that goes over the calculations in detail. Simply put, you'll either be bottlenecked by ether fuel or crystallite, and sometimes lens if you farm Stigmata fast enough. Ether fuel is easily obtainable for beginners, since you can get a lot from the material shop. Make sure to get the maximum amount of ether fuel you can get from here. You can also gain ether fuel by salvaging crystallite by clicking the recycle icon when in the Foundry. Crystallite can also be obtained by asking your buddies in your Armada. Do not exchange ether fuel for crystallite, as this is horribly cost ineffective and you will eventually be constrained by a lack of ether fuel. If you are currently constrained by a lack of crystallite, It's best to farm the stage that gives you the most crystallite of that grade and type. This would be the 2nd stage for G1 crystallite, the 4th stage for G2 crystallite, the 6th stage for G3 crystallite, and the 7th stage for G4 crystallite. Stages 3 and 5 are good if you need both G1 and G2 crystallite, or both G2 and G3 crystallite. Of course, remember that transmuting stigmatas should always be avoided unless you need to craft G4 stigmatas. If you are constrained by ether fuel, it's best to repeatedly clear stage 6. In terms of most to least efficient farming of ether fuel, it goes stage 6, then 5, then 7, then 4, 3, 2, and finally stage 1. But when should you use time swirl passes to grab Mirage Horde rewards? Don't use them until you have a clear goal on what stigmata or weapon you want to farm. Then you can use them to speed up farming. Finally, which stigmatas and weapons should you farm? A more complete list is provided in the description below, but here's an ordered list to get you started. 1. Attila B, to fulfill one of the requirements to complete Phase 6 of the Growth Regimen. 2. 2 to 3 copies of Teresa Gluttony Tea. 3. Pledge of Sakura, a divine key that unlocks buffs that make your Lightning Valkyrie stronger. 4. Marco Polo top and middle, and Fu Hua Musician middle and bottom. Though you get these for free from the starter shop, you might want to craft a copy. 5. Jin Sheng Tan top and middle, for elemental support Valkyries. 6. Liuwenhoik, which is used as transmute material for Little Joys. 7. The Little Joy's G4 fire set, which is especially recommended if you already have Siren and her weapon and want to get her best in slot gear. Little Joys can also work with mostly any fire DPS, but be aware that G4 stigmata sets tend to take a long time to farm. 8. Other impactful stigmatas. These can be Shuijing or Dirac for physical DPS Valkyries like Valkyrie Quicksand and Hersher of Sentience. Avogadro, Irene top and bottom for elemental support, Beethoven middle and bottom for extra physical damage, and Tesselban for either physical or elemental support. These are more niche, so be careful if you actually need to farm them. 9. And lastly, other G4 stigmata sets. Again, these take a long time, but they are good for DPS Valkyries, and can be farmed when you need to complete a set or need a general purpose option and are not hurting on time. We've now reached Phase 5 of the Growth Regimen. These tasks are pretty easy to accomplish. You'll want to enhance 2 more stigmata to level 40, for a total of 3 level 40 stigmata. I recommend leveling up the other Marco Polo piece in either Robert Perry, Fu Hua Musician, or any useful gacha piece you may have obtained. You'll also want to clear either 15 stages of Q-Manifold or 30 stages of Q Singularis. Another requirement is to reach 450 daily BP 3 times. This is most likely already done if you're moving at a slower pace. The rest of the requirements are story-based. Complete chapters 3 and 4 of the main story where Kiana meets with the best girl in the entire Hoyoverse before deciding that she's ableist. That's right, Wendy is best girl. Now, would it kill MiHoYo to reintroduce her instead of making vague references to her and never bringing her back up again? Hell, even one-off characters like Owl makes appearances in alternate universes. And no, that degenerate mess is clearly somebody else who I refuse to recognize. Well, I guess I'll have Kai. Despite being an old man, he's everywhere, which obviously means he's an elder to be. And finally, you want to reach Captain level 30 to unlock a new open world, a post-Honkai Odyssey, or APHO, where you play as a guy, of all things. This takes place after everything that happens in the main story, which is still ongoing, but before the events of the Alien Space manga and Honkai Star Rail. You play as an elite squad consisting of an energetic young black person, a reserved and serious young person ready to help save the world, and Raiden. Your goal is to travel to Africa to investigate the whereabouts of a famous figure and protect him from harm, unravel a shady conspiracy, and defeat some malicious actors before an invasion happens and a world war breaks out between civilizations. Along the way, you end up fighting a demon woman who's really good at singing, some beasts of nature, someone who wields a huge blade, and a high-ranking lieutenant. You end up facing the final villain, a handsome individual who has his own plan of saving Earth by destroying it, before getting wrecked. The story ends by pulling one last-ditch effort against him and winning. Also, the gameplay is heavily inspired by Devil May Cry. No, Schicksal and Sakura Samsara have worse adventure task rewards than APHO1 and APHO2. You should still complete APHO1 before starting APHO2, since APHO2 picks up right after APHO1 ends. Complete Chapter 1.1, The Disaster, to finish one more requirement of Phase 5. Reaching Captain Level 30 also unlocks the weekly quiz, accessed from the BP mission screen. Completing the weekly quiz gives you a lot of Asterite. Don't worry about answering incorrectly, the game will tell you what the correct answer is if you answered wrong. To complete Phase 5, simply reach Captain Level 35. Completing Phase 5 rewards you with 800 crystals and the weapon Magstorm, though based off of its damage it's more like Mag Drizzle. Now that you've reached Captain Level 35, you've unlocked Co-op Raids! Woohoo! Co-op Raids are accessed by clicking Attack and then clicking Co-op Raid button from the Attack tab. There are two types of co-op raids. 1. Tactical Training. Unlocked once you reach Captain Level 50, Tactical Training consists of one stage that refreshes daily from Monday to Friday. Clearing a stage once gives you 20 Spirit Jade, 3 Ether Fuel, and random Crystallite. Spirit Jade, along with Solium and Asterite, are used to upgrade special weapons called Divine Keys. They are also used to upgrade permanent buffs associated with Divine Keys. This option is recommended for more established players who do not need to upgrade Divine Keys and are more focused on farming materials for crafting Stigmata. The total amount of rewards for completing Tactical Training 5 times a week is 100 Spirit Jade, 15 Ether Fuel, and a good chunk of Crystallite. 2. Divine Key Raids. There are 2 raids, each consisting of 6 stages. Complete one stage to progress to the next. Like Tactical Training and Universal Mirage Co-op, captains must deploy unique Valkyries per stage. There's an added caveat here that once a captain deploys a Valkyrie, he can no longer use that same Valkyrie or her gear for the remainder of the raid. The first Divine Key raid offers 100 Spirit Jade, 8 Solium, 10 Twin Soul Crystals for upgrading equipment and Stigmata, and 2 Phase Shifters, and 1 Mind Stone for upgrading E.L.F. skills. The second Divine Key raid unlocks at Captain Level 56 and offers 15 Taurus and 30 SE Metal H2, which are used for upgrading PRI type weapons. The second Divine Key raid also rewards you with 4,500 Asterite and 6 Twin Soul Crystals. Co-op raids usually require 3 captains to participate. For Tactical Training, click on the Tactical Training button, select the stage, then click either Create Room to create your own team, or Quick Join to join someone else's team. It is far better to create your own team for Divine Key raids, as more people favor Tactical Training for being quicker and easier to do. To create a team to complete a Divine Key raid, click the Search button on the bottom left, then select the Create Team button. Select which options you would like for your team, then hit Confirm to create the team. Once you've created the team, select the Invite button to invite other people from your Armada or your friends. You can also choose to send an invite request to your Armada or to other captains in your region. Co-op raids will automatically be refreshed on Monday, the game's weekly reset day. You may choose to activate either Tactical Training or the first Divine Key raid for the week. Activating the first Divine Key raid resets the stages and its rewards for free, but closes Tactical Training for the rest of the week. On the other hand, activating Tactical Training gives you 5 daily attempts, but does not reset the stages for the first Divine Key raid or its rewards. The second Divine Key raid will automatically be refreshed every Monday, except for the 2 weeks for when the Chip Space event is available. A guide for what Chip Space is and how to best complete it will be linked. It goes without saying that co-op raids should be completed fully, since they provide a wealth of rewards that will help you build a solid account. If you are lacking in Solium or Spirit Jade, you can choose to reset the first Divine Key raid, thereby allowing you to claim the stage completion rewards again. However, only the first Divine Key raid can be reset. Resetting the raid uses time structures, a rare currency that is mostly obtained through completing daily missions. Keep in mind that time structures should first be used to buy out time swirl passes from the Mirage store shop, as these greatly increase the speed of farming stuff from the Foundry. Completing the first Divine Key raid rewards you with a specific Divine Key. Divine Key raids rotate through a specific order. Judgment of Shamash, followed by Grips of Taishuan, then Jizu Matima, then Star of Eden, and finally, Cleaver of Shamash. That means that if the Divine Key raid you completed rewards you with Star of Eden, you will have to wait 3 weeks to complete a Divine Key raid and get Grips of Taishuan. You can only have 1 copy of each Divine Key. More info on Divine Keys later, but first, let's continue with the Growth Regimen. Beginning Phase 6, the easiest mission to complete is by completing Chapter 1.4 of APHO, titled Heroes 3. From there, clear Stage 3 of any theme from Universal Mirage. Use the farming priority list from earlier to forge something from the Foundry. Pledge of Sakura, Attila bottom, Teresa Gluttony top, and Jin Cheng Tan top and middle are all good options. You'll then need to get 3 Valkyries to level 40. Reverse Calico, Shigure Kira, Golden Diva, and Hersher of Truth are all good options. The last 2 goals to complete this phase are reaching Captain level 45 and beating one S-rank boss in the Memorial Arena. Memorial Arena, unlocked at Captain level 38, is a game mode that pits your Valkyries and their gear against 2 bosses, or 3 bosses if you reach Captain level 70. Each boss has 5 different difficulties, ranging from C rank to SS rank. Defeating a boss at a lower difficulty unlocks the next difficulty for that boss. Any Valkyries and gear that are deployed against a boss cannot be used against any other Memorial Arena boss, though the same E.L.F. can be used against multiple Memorial Arena bosses. Completing and finalizing one difficulty level against a Memorial Arena boss takes up 1 daily attempt. You are given a set amount of attempts per day, with the remaining amount of daily attempts listed in the lower right corner. On the right side of the screen, you can see your current aggregate score, your current aggregate ranking, weekly finalization rewards based on your current aggregate ranking, and rewards next here. These rewards are obtained simply by successfully challenging and completing a difficulty against any Memorial Arena boss. Don't be worried if you can't have a high ranking or even beat bosses. What matters at this point is to obtain all the rewards for clearing bosses, which should be easy even with the most scuffed of beginner accounts. Finalizing with a higher ranking does reward you with more Ancient Legacy and Ancient Willpower, which are used to buy certain Valkyries and their fragments for ranking them up from the War Treasury shop. Once you reach Captain level 81, you'll also unlock SSS rank difficulties for bosses. You get additional rewards for completing the SSS rank difficulty based on your clearing score. Though the difficulty for these bosses is cranked up to 11, you can choose to do buff mode. Buff mode works by continuously weakening the boss the longer you fight him, until he becomes piss easy around the 3-minute mark. The downside to using this is that your clearing score is greatly lowered, reducing the clearing rewards you get. Obviously, don't select buff mode unless you're too lazy or can't defeat the boss otherwise. The good news about reaching Captain level 81 is that once you beat the boss with the boosted score label, the next week gives you the option to skip all difficulties inferior to the highest clear difficulty of the previous week, simply by pressing the Arena Light button. Keep in mind this still uses up daily attempts. So, how do you score high in Memorial Arena? The team building points still apply here, such as taking advantage of type countering and team synergy. What's really important here is to beat a boss as fast as possible. The big timer at the top is what you really should be focusing on. The less time spent clearing the boss, the more time should be left on the big timer, which means the higher your clearing score will be. This in-game timer is slowed down to 30% of its normal speed every time Time Fracture is activated. You can tell Time Fracture is activated when you hit the evade button and the whole screen darkens. Since having more time left on the in-game timer when you clear the boss equals a higher clearing score, you want to prioritize using Valkyries that can trigger Time Fractures more easily. For SS bosses, since these can be cleared in a few seconds once you have a stacked account, starting SP becomes more valuable, since that allows you to trigger ultimates more quickly, which means more damage, which results in the boss kissing the ground at a faster rate. There's also some references in the link below, and you can watch YouTubers like Marissa Honkai, Dodoko, and Akayuki for how to get a good score. The issue is that these are players so old that they are practically fossils, so they naturally have good teams, making it hard, if not impossible, to copy them. I recommend utilizing training mode to test out team compositions. This doesn't waste any daily attempt and gives you a good idea of what your clearing score will be. Of course, since it's training, you don't get any rewards. The faster you clear a boss in Memorial Arena, the higher your arena ranking will be. Each Tuesday, the arena rankings will finalize, and you will be rewarded with Twin Soul Crystal and Ancient Willpower. The higher your arena ranking is, the more ranking rewards you will receive. For reference, just clearing all bosses on the highest difficulties should at least place you at the 35th percentile. You can use the Ancient Willpower and Ancient Legacy obtained from Memorial Arena to buy S-rank Valkyrie fragments from the War Treasury shop. MiHoYo is changing up how to obtain Valkyries and their fragments starting in version 7.0, resulting in a very different priority list. You want to first get 2 S-rank Valkyries from the Dorm banner. Then, for any Valkyrie requiring solely Ancient Willpower, the priority list is basically first unlocking any Valkyrie that you can play as in the Elysian Realm. More on the Elysian Realm later. For upgrading Valkyries that require Ancient Willpower and Ancient Legacy, the most important thing is to unlock Siren while her discount lasts. Since MiHoYo is giving Jade Knight for free in version 7.0, you'll then want to rank up both Siren and Jade Knight to SS rank. Finally, rank up Siren and Jade Knight to SSS rank, then unlock her Share of Reason, and rank her up if you have Star of Eden. If a new War Treasury Valkyrie comes out, that Valkyrie and Siren will become the top priorities, pushing Jade Knight down. Reach Captain level 45 to finish Phase 6 of the Growth Regimen and obtain 800 crystals and a golden egg. You don't want to use the golden egg until at least after you have gotten your first 2 S ranks from the Dorm banner. It's better to hold on to it until you're missing only 1 Valkyrie from the following: Shadow Knight, Six Serenade, and Gushinso Memento. Wait until the patch you're in is a spending event, then use your saved up Dorm supply cards to pull on the Dorm banner. The reason for waiting until a spending event is because you get free bonuses when you spend crystals during spending events. Remember, never pull on Dorm supply with crystals, only with the free Dorm cards they give you. And yes, don't get the 10 Dorm cards for 1500 crystals, that's a genuinely awful deal. You get plenty of Dorm cards from the Armada terminal shop, and from the daily sign-in, the Dorm shop, the Homu Horde chest from the cyclic bundles located in the LTO menu, and from Armada commission rewards. You have 2 guarantees of getting a base S-rank Valkyrie from the Dorm supply within 25 pulls. Once you get your first 2 S-rank Valkyries from the Dorm supply banner, the hard pity will jump to 100. Phase 7 isn't hard conceptually, but most of it involves upgrading stuff. You'll want 6 level 40 Stigmata. You should already have 3 Stigmata at level 40 since that was required for completing Phase 5. Upgrading useful Stigmata is the key here, so Stigmata such as ones obtained from pulling gacha banners, Marco Polo, Teresa Gluttony, and Robert Perry are good options. You'll also want to level up a weapon to level 40. The best weapons here would either be Iris of the Dreams, which you can get for free from the supply giveaway, or any useful gacha weapons. If you don't have either of those, you can get Ranger's Cross from completing the Everlasting Memories Chronicle, unlocked at Captain level 35. Upgrading Ranger's Cross does not require Honkai shards to upgrade, which is good since you need a lot of Honkai shards in the game, especially when you're a beginner. Other Ranger weapons can also be obtained from the other Chronicles. You'll still want to stick with upgrading Ranger's Cross, since you have to complete 1 Chronicle to unlock the next, and every Chronicle is gated behind an increasing Captain level. But it may be useful to obtain the other Ranger weapons since they basically function as an attack stick for when you have no other option. Well, no other option that's good. The third requirement of Phase 7 is successfully challenging 2 different S-rank bosses in Memorial Arena. The next 2 requirements involve clearing a co-op raid and using a Divine Key. Since you need a Divine Key to achieve the latter requirement, clear the first Divine Key raid mentioned earlier. But first, let's talk more about Divine Keys. What are they? Are they useful? How do I use them? How do you use them? And what are the buffs associated with Divine Keys? Lore-wise, Divine Keys are 13 powerful weapons crafted in the previous era. These weapons can take on multiple forms, which can be seen by clicking the Dorm tab from the main menu, then clicking Divine Keys. Obtaining 1 form of a Divine Key unlocks said Divine Key, and allows you to then unlock buffs that apply to your Valkyries. Collecting multiple forms of a Divine Key allows you to sync between the forms and gain a permanent plus 10 attack bonus for your Valkyries. For example, having all 3 forms of the Key of Destruction gives you plus 20 in the attack stat. The Divine Keys and their forms are 1. Key of Binding, and its forms are Oath of Judah and Pledge of Sakura. 2. Key of Creation, and its forms are Abyss Flower and Abyss. 3. Key of Corruption, and its form is Jizo Machima. 4. Key of Domination, and its forms are Grips of Taishuan and Zhuanyuan Sword. 5. Key of Destruction, and its forms are Judgment of Shamash, Cleaver of Shamash, and Might of An-Utu. 6. Key of Devouring, and its forms are Star of Eden, Twins of Eden, and Star of Eden, the World. 7 is Key of Judgment, and its form is 7 Thunders of Retribution. And finally, 8. Key of Sentience, and its forms are Feng Huang Down, Ignorance of Current Affairs, aka Infinite Intimidator, and Feng Huang Pinions. Other divine keys are found in the lore. Keep in mind that just because it says key in the weapon name does not mean it's actually a divine key. Key of Castigation is not a divine key. Upgrading buffs is reliant on the highest level of any form of a particular divine key. Upgrading some forms of a divine key and their corresponding buffs require Spirit Jade and Solium. This means that you need to complete divine key raids regularly. You can also obtain more Spirit Jade in the co-op shop by converting AE Imaginons. It's also recommended to snag Honkai shards, phase shifters, and mind stones in the co-op shop on a need-to-have basis. Just make sure to regularly upgrade the divine key buffs. Once you unlock one buff for a divine key, you will have completed the Use a Divine Key requirement for Phase 6 and will now be able to activate the Gene Limit. Key of Binding unlocks physical and crit rate buffs. Key of Destruction unlocks fire and burst mode buffs. Key of Domination unlocks ice and SP buffs. And Key of Binding unlocks lightning and SP buffs. Buffs listed under Gene Limit are active buffs that must be activated in order to apply to your Valkyries. Activation is done by spending coins and applies for a limited time. Only one buff can be selected for each of these 4 divine keys at a time. You can see if the buffs are activated by coming to this screen. Some screens where you select your team fighting, such as in Memorial Arena and Abyss, also have an icon of a sword enveloped in flames with the words Divine Key Activated. There's a counter here that tells you how many of the 4 divine keys are activated. Clicking on the icon takes you to the Gene Limit screen. While Gene Limit buffs have a limited duration before they must be activated again, every divine key here also provides permanent buffs that will always apply to your Valkyries as long as you fulfill the requirements for unlocking these buffs. Keep in mind that during the duration, you can freely switch between which of the buffs you want activated. So, how do you obtain forms of a divine key? Well, 5 are obtainable from co-op raids: Judgment of Shamash, Grips of Taishuan, Jizo Matima, Star of Eden, and Cleaver of Shamash. Star of Eden, the World, Infinite Intimidator, and 7 Thunders of Retribution are usually obtained from special gacha banners called Schicksal Arsenal, and should only be obtained when you are more established, which is at least a year into the game. Pledge of Sakura can be forged in the Foundry and should be obtained as soon as possible. Feng Huang Pinions and Abyss can also be forged from the Foundry, but hold off on that until you get their corresponding forms: Feng Huang Down / Infinite Intimidator, and Abyss Flower. Feng Huang Down, Abyss Flower, Zhuanyuan Sword, Might of An-Utu, and Twins of Eden may show up in BP Works or as an off-rate in gacha banners. One special gacha banner that almost often has a divine key is Firepower Arsenal. Veteran players, not you, can guarantee this divine key by manipulating how Firepower Arsenal works. You have to select 5 stigmatas and 5 weapons, and you are guaranteed to gain a stigmata or weapon that you do not already own from that selection. So, if you have 5 complete stigmata sets and 4 weapons listed in the arsenal pool, you can select the divine key as the 5th weapon, and you are guaranteed to get it, since it's the only thing you don't have. Of course, since you're a new player, you don't have anything, so you can't use Firepower Supply to your benefit. Finally, Oath of Judah can and should be obtained from the exchange shop. Now, for the most important part, in what order do you upgrade the buffs? Key of Domination and Key of Destruction should both have their buffs at level 8, since you'll unlock the permanent buff of an extra 8 attack points for every Valkyrie. Key of Devouring and Key of Corruption should also have their buffs at level 4 to gain an extra 5 attack points. From there, I would level up divine keys based on need. If your strongest element is Ice, leveling up the Key of Domination's buffs would be a good idea so your Ice Valkyries would deal more ice damage. Of course, upgrading buffs is locked behind the level of the highest level of a form of the divine key, so level up and upgrade only one form of divine key, preferably the one that doesn't use Spirit Jade since Honkai cubes are easier to get than Spirit Jade. Okay, so now all we have to do is reach Captain level 50 to complete Phase 7. We get 800 crystals and 5 dorm cards in celebration of our hard work. Phase 8 involves more upgrades. Upgrade 3 Stigmata and 1 weapon to level 50. The ones you've been upgrading so far will be sufficient to complete these requirements. You'll then want to upgrade an SP Valkyrie to level 50. The best ones to upgrade would be any Valkyrie that you use regularly, especially SP Valkyries like Shigure Kira, Reverse Calico, or Golden Diva. Reaching Captain level 50 will also unlock 4 new features of the game. The first is Schicksal HQ, the last of the 4 open worlds. The story here takes place at the same time as Chapter 8 of the main story. It's basically like the Soul Society arc in Bleach. A ragtag bunch of heroes stage an assault against the headquarters of a powerful organization in order to prevent a main character from dying. Like Sakura Samsara, you have a familiar that provides buffs and special skills. This familiar is none other than Ai-chan, the world's number 2 cutie. Most of Schicksal works in a similar manner to Sakura Samsara, though you have the added option of crafting mechas. You can even pilot them, though sufficiently geared Valkyries deal more damage. The second new feature is E.L.F., or Equipment Living Form. These familiars are similar to Higo Kumaru and Ai-chan in that they provide specialized support to your team. E.L.F.s cannot be controlled, except for when they cast their ultimate. Click on the E.L.F. tab from the home screen to go to the E.L.F. overview menu. Here, Ai-chan will give you a starting bonus of 1 free E.L.F., Jingwei's Wings, who specializes in healing. Jingwei's Wings and Blood Embrace are the only 2 E.L.F.s that are A rank and are farmable. However, you should only buy E.L.F. fragments with coins, never with Asterite, as Asterite is a rare and valuable resource. The other E.L.F.s have a base rank of S and are not farmable. From the E.L.F. menu, we can see a list of E.L.F.s on the left, along with a few tabs for navigation. The first tab is an overview of the E.L.F., which provides their base rank, their current level, their name, what type of damage they deal, and what kind of role they play as in your team. The next tab is the Level Up tab, where you can view some basic statistics about your E.L.F. Here is where you can level up your E.L.F. E.L.F.s, like Valkyries, require EXP chips to level up. Unlike Valkyries, they also need coins. Like, a lot of coins. You can also view what star level your E.L.F.s are. Collecting enough fragments for a Valkyrie raises their rank, which in turn unlocks new skills. E.L.F.s work in a similar way, though you don't actually increase their rank, but rather their star level. A higher star level means more unlocked skills an E.L.F. can use. Farmable E.L.F.s start at 1 star no matter how you unlock them. Non-farmable E.L.F.s start at 2 stars. The maximum is 4 stars. The next tab is Skills, which is where you can upgrade the skill level of your E.L.F.s. Leveling up skills require a certain E.L.F. level and also consume a hefty amount of coins, advanced skill materials, and mind stones. Finally, the Story tab provides some background and insight into who these E.L.F.s are. Neat. You may be wondering, which E.L.F.s should I get? And how do I get them? You get Jingwei's Wings for free. Since she has very little utility besides healing, it's recommended to only upgrade her to level 50 and not invest too much into her skills. There is also a one-time bundle for upgrading Jingwei's Wings. Despite an upfront cost of 2 million coins, you get a lot of resources in return, so I'd recommend you grab it once you see it. Again, do not spend Asterite on buying Jingwei's Wings or Blood Embrace's fragments. There's a chance that they may appear in the logistics terminal shop for a small amount of coins. There's also a chance that Blood Embrace fragments can appear as an open world adventure task reward. Farming fragments through these 2 methods is acceptable, albeit slow. 4-star Blood Embrace does see some usage in Abyss against physical enemies with shields. Other E.L.F.s are obtained either through gacha or through spending event bonuses. Saving up enough crystals, or 2 spending events, can give you enough spending event bonuses to unlock and 3-star a gacha E.L.F. It's similar to catchback bonuses if you think about it. Non-farmable, or gacha E.L.F.s have a base rank of S and start out at 2 stars once you unlock them. If you pull a duplicate E.L.F., it gets converted into 105 E.L.F. fragments. As for which gacha E.L.F. to get, the answer here is obviously Project Bunny, since she's the newest E.L.F. to be released. She can increase the total and physical damage Valkyries deal to enemies. This makes Project Bunny most suited for physical teams, but her ability to gather enemies and reduce the cooldown between switching team members makes her good for other teams as well. Kiana Kaslana is the next best E.L.F., geared towards supporting fire and lightning teams, and can also gather enemies and reduce switch cooldown. Blade Durandal offers a similar role to Project Bunny, despite being older. Project Bunny is great at 3 stars, but Blade Durandal needs 4 stars to unlock her ultimate cooldown reduction skill. Project Bunny also has a much higher self-damage output during her ultimate than Blade Durandal's ultimate. Keep in mind that E.L.F.s are good for boosting teams when you actually have a team, and should not be pursued until you have a solid foundation. You can redeem E.L.F. fragments as a spending event bonus to unlock E.L.F.s, to avoid having to pull on their banners directly. Of course, you'll want to level Jingwei's wings to level 50 to complete the E.L.F.'s obtained requirement of Phase 8. The third feature that reaching Captain level 50 unlocks is the Elysian Realm. Abyss and Elysian Realm are the major sources of crystal income, so make sure to complete Abyss twice a week and Elysian Realm every week. You can access it from the Challenge tab in the attack menu. Entering Elysian Realm for the first time will start an intro story cinematic. Taking place during and after Chapter 28 of the main story, Elysian Realm follows Raiden Mei as she temporarily leaves Saint Freya and their ongoing war with Schicksal to find answers at the third rival organization, World Serpent. The Elysian Realm is itself a shadowy place that only the upper echelon of World Serpent can access. After proving herself capable, Raiden Mei ventures into the Elysian Realm, where she meets the last vestiges of a powerful civilization that ended 50,000 years ago. This civilization, dubbed the Previous Era, was wiped out by the Honkai. Through Raiden Mei, the story has you meeting the last heroes of the Previous Era, before they got wiped out, who call themselves the Flame Chasers. However, these are merely simulations of the Flame Chasers, kinda like Metal Gear Solid 2, as the original Flame Chasers are all dead, save for the current leader of World Serpent, Kevin Kaslana, the granddaddy of all Kaslanas, Fu Hua, and Griseo. Progressing through the 3 chapters of the story introduces you to each of the 13 Flame Chasers. Each Flame Chaser provides their own buffs activated under certain conditions whenever you explore the Elysian Realm. You'll need to go through the tutorial first, where the rank 2 Flame Chaser, Elysia, explains to you the different functions of the Elysian Realm. Exploring the Elysian Realm can be of 3 ways. 1. Flame Chaser Trials. 2. Shallow Sequence. And 3. Deep Sequence. Flame Chaser Trials is the story mode of Elysian Realm. Clicking on this tab shows you your progress in the current chapter. After the tutorial, the story mode has 3 different types of missions. 1. Normal explorations of the Elysian Realm. 2. Special explorations of the Elysian Realm that advance the story. And 3. Talking to NPCs. Normal explorations of the Elysian Realm can be skipped by consuming a Remnant of Yearning, obtained by completing a shallow or deep sequence. If the Flame Chaser Trials require special exploration, then normal exploration, i.e. completing shallow and deep sequence, will be unavailable until the special exploration is completed. Shallow sequence is easier than deep sequence, offering 3 different difficulties: safe, normal, and dangerous. Completing these 3 sequences for a Valkyrie offers you a one-time reward of 400 crystals. Deep sequence is much more harder than shallow sequence, rotating special buffs and debuffs to favor certain Valkyries. Difficulties in deep sequence range from void, or times 1.00, to finality, or times 2.75. The higher the difficulty you choose when starting a deep sequence, the more rewards you get upon completion of a run. Clearing rewards are displayed below the buff screen. The estimated clearing score next to it tells you what score you would get if you completed an Elysian Realm run at that current difficulty, which corresponds to the numbers at the bottom of the screen. Rewards for Deep Sequence are refreshed every Monday, so it's important to try the hardest Elysian Realm difficulty you can manage each week. Keep in mind that you only need to complete Abstinence, or times 2.25 difficulty to get all the crystals for the week. Elysia will guide you into exploring the Elysian Realm. Before starting the sequence, you'll be given an overview screen on your current loadout. This shows you the current combat Valkyrie, which is who you'll be fighting as, chosen support Valkyries, which give you support skills during the sequence, and Remembrance Sigils. Remembrance Sigils are obtained from Flame Chasers and provide unique skills to make your runs easier. These will be locked for now until you progress further into the story. After pressing start, you'll find yourself in the Elysian Realm. The current floor is displayed on the top left, with summonable supports on the right. After clearing the current floor of enemies, portals will pop up with a specific insignia on them. As you may have guessed, each insignia corresponds to a flame chaser. For example, the insignia with the katana and Sakura flowers corresponds to the flame chaser Sakura. Going through this portal will lead you to meet Sakura. Whatever portal you choose will dictate which flame chaser you meet, and correspondingly, which signet you get. Sakura's signets buff the Valkyrie every time the Valkyrie performs an ultimate evasion skill. Each flame chaser's signets buff your combat Valkyrie in different ways and are triggered on different conditions. The portal I'm going through here has a yin-yang insignia, corresponding to the flame chaser Hua, who provides signets that buff Valkyries as long as they don't get hit. Of the 13 flame chasers, Elysia is special as she provides signets that are unique to each Valkyrie. Once you get to the 4th floor, you may notice a timer at the top of the screen. This is the bonus rewards countdown timer. Defeating all enemies before the timer is up gives you the option to choose 2 signets instead of 1. On a normal 17 floor run, the current milestones look like this. Double signet floors are on floors 4, 7, 11, and 15. Boss floors are floors 8, 12, and 17, with a special boss fight against a flame chaser on a secret floor 18. Some floors don't have any enemies but instead are shop floors, where you can buy and enhance signets, change your loadout, and restore HP. Shop floors are located on floors 5 or 6, 9 or 10, 13 or 14, and 16. Choosing to go to the shop on floor 5 prevents it from showing up on floor 6. Ditto for floor 9 and floor 13. If you get 3 signets from the same flame chaser, you unlock their core signet, which further boosts your Valkyrie and unlocks advanced signets from that flame chaser. Each flame chaser has 2 different core signets. Which core signet to choose, and really any signet in general, is heavily dependent on the Valkyrie you're currently using. A good rule of thumb is to consider what the Valkyrie is good at and what she's bad at. If a Valkyrie attacks really fast, choosing Sue's Signets of Bodhi is a really good option as his buffs activate every 150 combo hits. Also, some signets will have tags associated with them. If the tag is highlighted, then that means that the combat Valkyrie has that tag. Cosma's Signets of Daybreak have the bleed tag, which as you guessed it is suitable for Valkyries that deal bleed damage, like Susanna or Griseo. Complete the run, and you'll see a finalization screen with the rewards you've obtained. You'll then head to the War Room, where you can upgrade your Valkyries. See, Elysian Realm has its own currency called Memory Fragments, used for upgrading Valkyries and increasing their enhancement level. You first need to actually own the Valkyrie, then in the War Room you can use a flawless key to unlock said Valkyrie. You only get 1 flawless key every week, so enjoy being time-gated. Once you've unlocked the Valkyrie for use in Elysian Realm, you then play as the Valkyrie in Shallow or Deep sequence to obtain Memory Fragments. Upgrading your Valkyrie's enhancement level results in a higher base attack and HP, as well as increasing the buff amount of Elysia's signets. Next to the War Room is Diverging Paths, which is a talent tree. These are split into 4 paths: Aegis, Wealth, Combat, and Feast. Upgrading Diverging Paths require Stones of Choice, which, like Memory Fragments, is completed by progressing through the Elysian Realm or through Remembrance Vessels. More on that later. Like any talent tree, unlocking and upgrading talents is vital to being able to successfully clear harder difficulties. Of the paths, Aegis is the least important since it only reduces the damage you take. Even if you're not good at dodging, you can simply take advantage of a Valkyrie with a lot of invincibility frames, or use Hua Signets, which provide invincibility once you unlock her core signet. Talents closer to the center are generally more useful than the talents further out. Combat is the most important since it has talents that boost a Valkyrie's damage output. Then, the When Revelry is King, where Moon Songs are gentle, and the Where Divergent Paths Meet, of the Feast path. From there, the Wealth talents closer to the center are the next priority. You can then choose to work your way out from the center and upgrade talents, with the Aegis path being the least priority. Every time a talent is unlocked or upgraded, the total talent level goes up, giving you access to new support Valkyries and different buffs. The next part of Elysian Realm unlocks after you clear the Flame Chaser trial, Dying Kindling 1. Talking to Elysia in the lounge unlocks the Remembrance Vessels there. Here you need Dying Kindling, yet another currency obtained from exploring the Elysian Realm. Using Dying Kindling unlocks and upgrades Remembrance Vessels. Each Flame Chaser has their own Remembrance Vessel, and every time you upgrade it, you're treated to some lore. It's a good idea to upgrade them, as you get Stones of Choice and some sweet crystals as a reward. That covers the basics of Elysian Realm. The only other parts is the E.L.F. typewriter, which is a new feature that gives you the spark notes of what happened in the Elysian Realm. Collection is where you can view past dialogue and also see how far you are in collecting different signets. If you grab a signet just once, this unlocks the signet in the collection. Having complete sets in the collection also gives you crystals. The Flame Chaser network is really just a fun little page to show you how each Flame Chaser views the other Flame Chasers. Finally, the most important part is the Elysian shop. Here, the most important things to get, from most important to least important, are the phase shifters, the time swirl passes, Honkai cubes, Valkyrie fragments, red lens, boosters for skipping adventure tasks when you're too lazy, and finally stamps, which convert to Valkyrie fragments. Of course, you need another currency to buy things from the shop called Rusted Insignia, to buy items from the Elysian shop. Elysian Realm can be pretty complicated. The most important thing for you to remember is to try the hardest difficulty you can every week. I recommend checking on the links in the description below for what signets to choose for each Valkyrie. Big thanks to Adori for taking the time to compile builds for each Valkyrie. Once you progress through enough of Chapter 1 of the Elysian Realm, you will complete one more requirement of Phase 8. The last requirement is to reach Captain level 55. Your reward for completing Phase 8 is 800 crystals and a Honkai cube. Before starting Phase 9, we get to talk about the fourth feature unlocked at level 50, PRIs. These are upgraded forms of basic weapons that unlock new skills and do a lot more damage. Crafting PRIs can be done once you reach level 50, but upgrading them can only be done once you reach level 81. To craft a PRI in the Foundry, you must have obtained the basic form of the PRI at some point in time. You then need to synthesize the following materials to craft the PRI. 1. An acceptable base weapon. 2. 100 Taurus. 3. 4 Fluid Alloy Block. And 4. 50 SC Metal H2. The full cost to upgrade a PRI weapon to level 65 is here. A good way to farm Taurus and SC Metal H2 is from events, co-op raids, chip space, and buying from the dormant Asterite shop. It's usually a good idea to PRI a weapon, if it has a PRI form, of course. Of course, since it's so expensive to PRI a weapon and then upgrade it, your PRI priority will most likely be either whatever the current patch's PRI weapon is, the weapon you use the most, or the weapon that you are going to use the most if you look at the upcoming bosses and Abyss schedule. Those are the major features that are gated behind Captain level 50. There are also some other minor features gated behind level 50, such as Drift World Simple Material Event, which is part of Material Expeditions and offers advanced skill materials. Anyways, there's only one phase left of the growth regimen, Phase 9. You'll want to raise 5 Valkyries to S rank, and 2 SP-type Valkyries to level 55. You'll also want to rank up 9 Stigmata to level 50, and PRI 1 weapon. Just continue to level up the Stigmatas that you've leveled up before, and PRI the weapon that you already have at level 50. In the Elysian Realm, clear the Dangerous difficulty in Shallow sequence for any Valkyrie. Finally, you'll want to reach Captain level 60. Your reward for completing Phase 9 is 800 crystals and 5 dorm cards. And with that, the growth regimen is finished. You'll still want to complete daily and weekly missions in the starter manual and redeem materials in the starter shops, of course. From here, your goal will be to reach the Master's bracket, which is Captain level 70, and then speedrun to the Exalted bracket, which is Captain level 81. When you reach Captain level 80, you'll be given the option to remain in the Master's bracket, or break through to the Exalted bracket when you reach Captain level 81. Breaking through to the Exalted bracket allows you to upgrade PRI arms above level 50, and receive much more crystals and materials for completing the same game modes. Ancient Legacy, for example, is almost impossible to obtain in the Master's bracket. The downside to breaking through is that there is a significant spike in difficulty from the Masters to the Exalted bracket. Enemies are tougher to defeat, and the introduction of harder game modes such as SSS ranked bosses and Superstring Dimension as the new Abyss mode means that you'll feel the pressure to spend real money to keep up in the game. More strategies are viable in the Masters bracket due to easier enemies, but most guides and references are geared towards captains playing in the Exalted bracket. And finally, the community looks down upon players who decide to stay in the Masters bracket. Should you stay in the Masters bracket, you'll still have to contend with campers. As for my recommendation, whatever you choose quickly. Your account will always be lacking no matter when you break through to Exalted, so if you decide to do so, it's better to do so as soon as you reach Captain level 80. Even if the content is more difficult, within a few weeks you'll be able to comfortably play in the Exalted bracket. For reference, players who can retain Red Lotus in the Masters bracket should be able to retain Agony 3 in the Exalted bracket, and they'll receive more rewards for doing so. My advice? Channel your inner Shia LaBeouf and
just do it!
Your main goal once reaching level 81 is to become comfortable playing Superstring Dimension and Memorial Arena. Once you hit Captain level 88, excess experience points for leveling up get turned into coins. Once you reach this stage, you may be wanting more crystals or better teams. As I've said before, the main sources of income are from Elysian Realm, Abyss, event shops, daily sign-in and daily duty, and completing the story and Chronicles. You can obtain more crystals through abusing Visa-chan and buying a monthly card, buying this patch's BP, claiming BP rewards, completing gameplay tutorials for this patch's Valkyries, weekly share, claiming server maintenance rewards at the beginning of a patch, completing a feedback survey at the end of a patch, completing mechanics tutorials, in-game codes which you can find in the official Discord server, Armada contributions, open world adventure tasks, bosses, supplies, and Sensei Cadet missions. Focus cards for pulling on gear banners can be obtained through BP Arsenal and through completing character trials under the Challenge tab from the attack menu. MiHoYo will also sometimes give focused and expansion cards as special login rewards. If you want better teams, most likely you'll want your Valkyrie's attack stat to be higher. Keep in mind the basics of team building apply. You want to go for Valkyries and gear that will have the most positive effect on your account. Cheaply obtained gear is always recommended to get, but if there's no discount banner currently available, it's usually a good idea to go for gear for SP-type Valkyries, as these tend to be more versatile than DPS Valkyries and their gear. Any permanent buffs will always help boost your team's damage output, whether that be from Divine Keys and their corresponding buffs, Dorm Valkyrie buffs, emblems, etc. It should go without saying that Valkyries want their best in slot gear, and they don't want their gear to be underleveled. I've made the amateur mistake of having the wrong weapon equipped on a Valkyrie and then wondering why my Valkyrie was doing so little damage. In some cases, upgrading a Valkyrie's gear helped me get better scores. Finally, one of the easiest, but also most frustrating, ways to make your Valkyrie stronger is through rerolling affixes on your stigmata. You can use wafer data flows, wafer stabilizers, crystal flash tanks, and normal crystal cores to unlock affix lines. DPS Valkyries usually want 6 lines of increased attack. Increased attack ranges from 0 to 23. Summing over 6 lines, this gives us the following ranges. Under 60 attack is bad. 60 attack is bare minimum, assuming you're using no locks. 90 to 100 attack is considered good enough for Nirvana. 110 to 120 attack is the endgame goal, and 120 plus is competitive. 138 is the pinnacle of perfection, reserved for Herrscher of Void. This is a joke, don't sue me. Physical DPS Valkyries will want 3 crit damage and 3 attack lines, or 4 crit damage and 2 attack lines. Anything over 5% crit damage per line is good, with 5.6% crit damage being the max for one line. Support Valkyries usually want some combination of restoring SP per second and SP needed to cast skills is reduced. Good amounts for these are 0.4, with 0.5 being the max for the former, and 2.7%, with 3% being the max for the latter. One exception to this rule is Ice Valkyries paired with Hershey of Human Ego, as she relies on her teammates spending a lot of SP. The most important part to building a good account is time. It will still take time to upgrade Valkyries and their gear and unlock and max out buffs. My advice here is to just be patient. Or wail, but wailing is bad for you. And that concludes everything you need to know about getting into Honkai Impact 3. Of course, since it's taken me a very, very, very long time to make this video, there's going to be some parts that are outdated by the time this video gets published, especially some of the new UI improvements that they've been rolling out and the new engine that we'll get someday. If you've enjoyed this video, please give me some encouragement in the comments below, because man, was this an arduous endeavor. Special thanks to Kibi for how to build teams, the mods and professors in the official Discord server for years of stored info, memes for learning, and White and Garuda for the new Captain's Book, Leo ZX Wings for reviewing this guide and providing feedback, and Wendy for being best girl. This is W Thide, and I'm signing out.